A sister. That's somebody who should look out for you. Get your back, right? Well, guess what? This is not only my sister. She's my twin sister. And when I tell you she hates my guts, that's not an understatement. But she did something that I'm about to share with you that I simply cannot forgive her for. So I decide to ruin her biggest day of her life. Her wedding. Oh yeah, and then I steal her man. So this is one of those times when my twin hates me to the point she did not invite me to her wedding. Why? Because I don't look so good. I've never talked to anybody in detail about our relationship because I just found it too embarrassing. I'm going to try to keep a really long story kind of condensed as best that I can. I guess to start, I'll explain my childhood. My sister Emily and I are twin sisters, identical. We've always been very different though. We have the same hair, face, height, and skin color. But I'll tell you, my similarities stop right then and there. There's no other way to say it. I'm not hot, or even pretty by most people's standards, but Emily just always managed her looks and weight way better than me. And the differences don't stop there. I'm what people would call an introvert, while my sister is outgoing. We're as close as twins can be, but my mom and dad refuse to treat or let anyone treat us as the same person, and we are just never really glued to each other's hip. She was very boisterous and energetic. I mean, she talked first, and I walked first. She was always the speaker for us. She has her group of friends, and she is always just really into dating, and I'm not. People believed I'm the one who just stays in her dorm all day, and she's the one out having the best of life. And she'll lie when hanging out with mutual friends, saying that I couldn't go because I'm sick. When, in reality, I had no idea they were even in town. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention they seem to like her more than me for some reason. Maybe it's because she's much more outgoing and talkative than me, but really, that's just who I am. But of course, she tells me that all the time, that I need to be more like her if I want to have more friends. I was always really isolated. Most of my talking, it was over in 2 minutes or less. One-word answers was just good monologue for me. And I was self-conscious too, as I've had this huge birthmark on my face along with a lot of pimples. When I was in high school, I wanted to keep my head down, get my work done, do it well, and only need to talk to who I absolutely had to. Emily was the polar opposite. She joined every team that she could and never got a grade higher than a B, outside of gym. And seriously, just could talk for hours. She could easily burn through the minutes on her phone in a day, and our parents would have to hide the house phone from her because she'd just sit there and talk literally all day long. This is probably too much information, I'm sorry, but hey, I'm a virgin and never had a boyfriend, and Emily considers this one factor in her hatred towards me. We grew up close, but over the years, she took a different path and we just became distant. My parents have always favored her, and that's another reason our relationship is not as strong. I should mention that my family's pretty affluent. Ever since I remember myself, my parents encouraged me and Emily just to compete with each other, while they always favored her over me. She always had their support, and I was expected to just compete. Well, I was also expected to be considerate. I spent my entire life trying to prove myself to them, but when I succeed in something more than she does, they just ask me to give it up. But they never ask this from her. I do love her, and my parents, even though I feel like I've been treated unfairly. Unlike me, she feels like our relationship is a competition and she has to win. She always is trying to one-up me, bragging that she has better grades, more work experience, more friends, telling me what to do with my life because apparently she somehow has all the answers. Side note, she isn't even giving me advice because she wants to. It's so that she can feel better about herself and reassure herself that at least she's more accomplished than me, her sister. We endured abuse together as a child, and as a result of this trauma, while I took other equally damaging paths, growing up she became the antagonistic twin. and took away a lot of the little peace I had in my school years. Like, she would criticize me, tell me I'm ugly, sheltered, ghetto, and stupid, and just treat me less than her. So when I confront her about it, I'm told that I'm just being a victim complex, and claim that I bring her down by just existing. Everybody wants a twin, right? Everyone. But they don't know what it's really like. I feel so robbed of the twin experience because all of this bullcrap I have to deal with. I never had a normal life. Before this wedding issue that I made the whole post about, I never hated her. Hate is such a strong word. I thought Emily was just kind of bossy, sure, but I also really loved her. But hey, it's contentious. She was one of the few people I felt comfortable even talking to, and we had a really good time together. You could say even when she hated me, I did not hate her at all. There weren't enough good friends in my life for me to afford to hate her, and there still aren't any. I can't describe it, I'm highly ambivalent. I was devastated when she did not invite me to her wedding, though. Last year, my father told me Emily was getting married and I was overjoyed. I knew her fiancé and he was really nice. I was super excited to go dress shopping since I thought I would be invited too. I was saving up for that because I wanted to attend since she is my only sibling, and this is most likely a once-in-a-lifetime event. The wedding, it was supposed to take place in northern Germany, Hamburg. Then I saw on Facebook they had moved the wedding to December in Italy. Again, it was changed back to the same city that we live in. When my mother booked the ticket to go, I realized I wasn't invited since she only booked 2. My dad even warned me after they got engaged that I probably would not be invited and not to get my hopes up, but I didn't think Emily actually would not invite me. What hurt the most, though, is that she never told me that I wasn't invited. No text, no letter, no talking, nothing. She never tried to talk to me about it, and when I saw her at family gatherings, she only made small chit-chat with me, as if nothing even happened. My parents obviously know they will be attending, but have not said a single word about it to me. Okay, it's not their wedding, so yeah, I kinda get it. They did not even pretend they want to include me, though. I'd been okay with a reason like, hey, unfortunately, we cannot pay for your trip and hotel. If you don't have the funds to come, we understand, and we'll be happy to see you at whatever other time. Or something along those lines. I never expected them to pay for me, but to exclude me completely from the actual wedding just seems like a low blow. Ever since then, I kinda detached myself from her and did not go over to her place with my dad or anything. After a couple of weeks, I completely stopped talking to her because I noticed that my mental health was suffering and I decided to do what was best for me, which is going no contact and avoiding her at family gatherings or not going altogether. It was 2 weeks before her wedding and my dad asked me to maybe talk it out with her. He doesn't want to pressure me to do anything, but he says that family is important and that he would like it if we got along. He also told me he never knew she never told me I wasn't invited, that she told him she had talked to me. He understands I'm upset and he doesn't want to get involved. He just told me how he felt. When I talked, I was told I was not invited, but I could attend a big celebration sometime next year, when they would invite the rest of the family and friends who couldn't make it to the wedding. She said the plan was changed by her fiancé and that the wedding would be, quote, parents only, as he just didn't want too many people to be there. Well, I was upset. I let it go because it was my sister and I just wanted her to be happy. I found out it wasn't just parents though. She literally had every single relationship invited. Even her best friend from college, by the way. And I know it's her best friend, so why would not she be there? But why wouldn't I be there? It just didn't make sense. Why could I not see her in her dress? I don't know why my sister chose to do it this way, but all of them being invited felt like an absolute slap across the face. She wanted me to miss something so important in her life, but Because of what? Why? Being snubbed like this is so hurtful. I didn't want to hear through the grapevine or social media that I wasn't only not the maid of honor, but not in the wedding reception at all. I confronted her, and she said she thought that the venue is not friendly and comfortable for me, and that's why she did not invite me. If that's the only reason, isn't that something I should decide? Maybe I can handle myself in the venue, you know. I told her, hey, I'm not buying it, and she finally admitted that she thought about it a lot and decided that she didn't want an ugly copy of herself to ruin her perfect day. Wow. And that she just wanted one day when we weren't standing together being compared. My parents told me that I need to understand and respect it, that it is her wedding and she gets to decide who comes, and I can't be upset and I should just respect her decision. Yeah, it is her decision, but that doesn't mean it's deserving of respect or silence. I told them that if she thinks I'm not good enough to be at her wedding, then I don't want her or to even see her again. But they tell me that I should continue to be a good sister and just respect her and be friendly with her. Well, I don't understand why. Why is it okay for my twin to be a terrible sister to me, but I'm the one that has to be a good sister? She set the tone for our relationship now, which is that we basically do not have a relationship at all. Her action has consequences. I tell them, since Emily chose not to invite me to her wedding, and you guys are choosing to go without me and not even stick up for me as a member of your family, well then, you should expect the consequences of those decisions. It's my relationship when both Emily and you will suffer. So one cousin then asked her why I wasn't invited. She stated that she did not think it was worth the money to have me at her wedding. I'm not saying anyone needs to invite anyone that they don't want there, but again, it just sickens me to think that I put my life on hold to be her emotional dumping grounds. And, well, I don't know, she just couldn't do anything for me? And now I'm the cause of my whole family trying to figure out what to do and who to side with. The whole situation makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. I likely would not have gone even if I had been invited due to her not speaking to me for so long. But the fact that she's going around telling people that I'm ugly, I won't lie, I was upset. I was. I hate feeling excluded, and it was doubly worse because everyone else in the family was going except for me. And honestly, I really like weddings. They're usually very fun. I kept it to myself, but I wasn't happy. So I got a copy of the wedding guest list and emailed whoever I could that I wasn't invited to the wedding, with the real reason why. So, on the wedding day, Sheila, she's like a grandma to me, called me and said that people were confused as to where I was. Apparently, Emily said I was sick and simply could not make it. I was mad at that point, so I got into my car and headed to the hall. Some friends and family told me they were so happy I came, and it would not have been the same without me. Emily did not kick off, but she gave me dirty looks the whole time, and I could see her whispering to people, who would then also give me dirty looks back. She then blew up at me for, quote, undermining her and ruining her wedding. Nothing happened. She just did not enjoy it because she spent it feeling angry. I know, it's crappy to crash a wedding, but I felt like I had a right to be there and just let everyone know what kind of person Emily really is. Something sparked inside of me, and I just quickly raised myself out of my seat and walked up to her and loudly demanded, in front of everybody, she explains why I was not invited. She said I was disturbing the wedding over nothing and that I should not make such a big deal about something. Well, she and our parents tried to get me to quiet down a bit, but it was too late because there's people now standing up watching us argue. They tried to get me to sit down too, but I told my sister that she is and will always be my family, and she not only disrespected me by excluding me, but seriously disrespected our relationship as well just because she has, well, Says I'm not as good looking as her. She got angry and starts yelling at this point. She said things like, I have a whole wedding waiting for me back there. Why do you think you're to come here and waste my time? And some very awful slurs, which I won't add. Her groom-to-be, Alaric, he called the wedding off after hearing all that she had said to me, and at that moment he decided she was not the kind of girl he wants to spend the rest of his life with. He told her in front of everybody that he felt it was extremely important for him to know with certainty that he will not end up with a cruel, heartless woman. And he just said this, I just couldn't get in good faith or go forward with the marriage with my new understanding of who you really are. Well, I left after that. I called an Uber and I went straight home. My parents berated me later about making a scene at my sister's wedding and ruining everything that she worked for. Emily was sobbing in my father's arms, and I could not help but start to cry, because I turned all my family against me by ruining my sister's wedding. That same night, Alaric came over to my place, and we ended up talking about it. He came up to me and asked if I was okay, and we ended up chit-chatting for hours, and we became close friends. I talked with him about several topics which we had in common, like anime, which we're both very huge fans of, and I thought he was really cool. I don't talk about my sister with him, and he would not ask about her. It's just like we're friends, normal friends. He used to play video games when he was over at the house, went to the movies, and took me to baseball games with his friends. He came to most of my chess matches just to support me. He'd talk about me, about stuff, and just listen. It was cool to have a guy to talk to about how I've suffered because of my sister and parents. Well, about 5 months after this, one thing led to another, and he suddenly asked if I'd ever thought about the idea of me and him being together, because of how much sense it would make based on our personalities clicking. He emphasized beforehand that it means nothing, and he didn't want me to take it the wrong way. But there have been many other moments where I've questioned him hinting at something between the two of us, and oh boy, I was right. I went fishing with him and a few of our buddies yesterday, and Emily saw me tagged in a few photos with her ex. She called me and was absolutely infuriated that I would go ahead and hang out with her fiancé. She said she doesn't want to see any trace of him anymore, and I just told her she's being ridiculous, that he's my friend now, and our friendship has nothing to do with her. Especially because he's not her fiancé anymore, so I asked her, "Did you really forget he called off the engagement?" She told me to consider her feelings too and hung up the phone. Well, then I received a text from Alaric, who wished me good luck before my chess tournament in August, and it meant a lot because no one in my house even seemed to care. I confessed. I love him. He told me that I was all he could think about day and night, and then we decided to start dating. I decided to tell my family, and obviously they were mad, which I didn't care. My mom said she already knew what was going on and called me a terrible sister for betraying and treating Emily like that. I contemplated breaking up with them, but I decided against it. And now, well, 1 year later, we're slowly planning to get married in 9 weeks. I know this is right, but somehow it feels like I'm ruining Emily's life indirectly. Update number 1. Hey guys, I wrote this post just to get it off my chest, a little rant. I did not expect anyone to see or care. I want to thank you for the responses, especially for the wedding invites. You see, I saw a lot of comments speculating I might be an affair child, and that's why Emily is so offended by my existence. I'm not. Disregarding the fact that my parents would never cheat, they met through mutual friends, and said friends are still friends in their life, and have told me how they met 100 times. Well, First of all, I haven't spoken to my parents yet about the wedding, and I'm going to see them tomorrow and just intend to speak to them about it. But I'm also planning on reaching out to my sister myself and seeing her one-on-one, maybe in the upcoming week or so, just to talk, not to invite her to my wedding, but simply to see what she has to say since we haven't had a little sit-down proper conversation in over a year. I just have not been up to it talking to her. Still, I do feel guilty. When I and Alaric started hooking up, and it did not help that my parents were totally against it when they found out as well. They're worried about my sister's reaction, but to be honest, I wasn't even sure at that point if this would evolve into a serious relationship. She'll be jealous of me, upset that Alaric picked me over her, and sad about the end of their relationship. She's had a very serious relationship with Alaric for 3 years. Maybe we can even come to an understanding about why I chose to be with Alaric and how it doesn't have to be a competition between us. It's not about one of us being better than the other. It's just about finding the person who makes us happy. And that's what Alaric does for me. You see, I hope Emily can come to see that, even if it does take some time. Last night I was scrolling through my phone and Emily posted an Instagram story with a quote about, and I quote, "Another woman stealing your man." She must have been embarrassed in front of all the guests, cause I didn't think she would be posting something like that for all our friends and family to see. I've only had one real friend that lives on the other side of the country, so the only person that's ever been there for me is my sister. I don't want her to hate me forever. I'm stuck between, what have I done, am I awful, and should I just end it? Or, why can't she consider how we're happy together, and I just want to be in love too? I'll definitely invite both my sister and my parents to my wedding, no matter what they've done to me. Update number 2. Hey everyone, sorry it took some time, but I'm here with an update. I had some problems publishing it, but hey, it's all good now. Me and Alaric did speak to my parents. They're very disappointed with me getting married to Emily's ex. They told me to choose either I or choose family or my fiancé. I told them my fiancé is not going anywhere, and he's going to be family now. They couldn't accept it, so I'm never seeing them again. No contact. My fiancé and I sat down with them to discuss how while I wanted them to be a part of this special moment of my life, I could not abide by their criticism and clear disgust with our intentions to get married. The conversation went nowhere and ended with my mother crying and my fiancé arguing with both my parents until I simply could not take it anymore. And we left. After that, my family seemed to calm down a bit, and I asked my mother if she'd be willing to put together a list of addresses for my more distant relatives for the invitations to try to include her. She agreed. A couple days later, she gives me a call. She says she's made the list of addresses, but that she'll not give them to me unless I come by their home and have a private conversation without my fiancé around about my decision-making. I knew immediately, right then and there, that this was meant that they are going to gang up on me, try to attack and coerce me into not getting married to him. I attempted to compromise with her and said that I would be willing to talk to them in private, but with my fiancé in another room nearby for emotional support if things got a bit too heated. My mother starts freaking out when I mention that. She said that I was afraid to talk to them one-on-one and that she would not speak to me and my fiancé was there ever. She then tried to convince me to have a therapy session with herself and my father to get past my, quote, fears. I just found this completely and utterly ridiculous and flat out refused. We haven't spoken since, and I love my family, but I'm not sure what to do here. I'm not sure how I can include my family in my wedding and my future life when their only goal seems to prevent me from getting married in the first place. I ended up talking to them in private. I told my father that I really wanted you just to walk me down the aisle, and for you to celebrate this with us. Emily called me every single possible name you could think of. Fat, shapeless person who doesn't deserve Alaric, and even said I was dead to her. I didn't even have a chance to explain. I'm not welcome at my parents' place when I come home for the holidays because Emily just made it crystal clear she doesn't want me in her life anymore. In fact, our whole family sided with her. Update number 3. Thanks guys for reading and helping me. I appreciate it. Sorry I could not answer all of you that sent me a private message. After what happened in the last conversation, Alaric made it a mission of his to make Emily realize how I'm better looking than her. He told that Emily sent her an old picture of me and he showed it to me. The picture was just incredibly unflattering and embarrassing at the angle of the picture. It just made me look very unpleasant. But Alaric told me that no matter how much Emily tries to ruin our relationship, she's going to fail over and over again. At that moment, I realized how much I really love Alaric. As I mentioned in the main post, I've always been a bit chubby, and she's always been super skinny. I'm not a model, but I do have a belly and love handles, mainly because I used food as an escape when I became abused. She has a very high metabolism, but she'll say, it's because I eat healthy and exercise. Even though I see her on Snapchat getting fast food every single day, and not to mention, she supersizes it. Once I was making tacos for our mom's birthday, and my sister came up and whispered in my ear, I can see your birthmark. She'll just come up to me just to pinch my belly fat and say that I look pregnant. She told me I need to lose weight because it concerns her, which means I embarrassed her because I'm fat. Alaric knows all that she did to me, but, well, we worked hard together and I lost weight in stages. Lost a lot at first, then stopped trying, but I maintained it. Then I lost a bit more, maintained it, and most recently I've lost 30 pounds to finally reach and exceed my goal. Well, mostly via Zumba. Only in the past month I've started to realize how good looking I've become. And wow, it's weird. My body's gone from normal, nerdy girl look, to something I can't even describe as a half-finished Greek goddess. My figure's literally transforming between my eyes, and Alaric even got me an eye lens and made me throw away my glasses. I've become increasingly attractive. I've lost fat, my facial skin is healthier, and I've done laser removal on my birthmark. After regarding the wedding, we got to a point where we had also saved enough to move forward with the plans. So, we set a date. It's going to be a few months out and sent out a save-the-date invitation. Got the addresses myself with the help of a relative. My first love is lovelier than I could have ever hoped for, but all I can think about is my wedding. Everyone will turn around expecting to see a bride and her father. And it's going to be just me, alone, without anyone to stand up next to her. Father to the bride speeches have always been one of my favorite elements of weddings, and nobody will speak for me. Update number 4. This is the final update by OP. Hey guys. I guess you can imagine and call the update for the update that it is. I just felt like I wanted to let you know how the wedding went down. It was kind of perfect. That's why this will be the last update. My sister, she did come to the wedding, with off-the-shoulder drape sleeves, illusion cleavage, and a sweetheart neckline, bridal white heels with right rhinestones, and a thigh-high slit up the front. She was trying to upstage me because she never had a wedding since the last time Emily saw me. I've lost a lot more weight. I've gotten very fit and completely turned my life around. She, on the other hand, appears to have completely changed too, but not in a positive way. When we separated, she looked like a model. Now she has these dark circles under her eyes. She's lost her shape. And the second she saw me, she was obviously shocked, but she was like, well, look who suddenly the Miss Glow-Up. I told her, hey, I'm still the same person, I have the same smile, the same sense of humor, the same interest, and the same conversations, except one thing. She doesn't get to call me ugly anymore. She then tells me that she almost did not recognize me without all the extra weight and frumpy clothing. That's how she remembers me, huh? Fat, ugly, unhappy. I didn't even reply. I've moved on, and my eyes are on my future now, not my past. I felt powerful for the first time in my life. Alaric asked me to tell her to change her outfit, so I told her we would close the slit with a little binder clip, and she would also wear a shawl for the pictures and ceremony, but afterward, at the reception, yeah, she can take off those binder clips and shawls. She became quite livid and told me I was being unreasonable and that the only reason I wanted her to cover up was so I, quote, would not have competition. Now it was the time before the vows. I decided to walk down the aisle by myself. But Alaric came down from the front and met me halfway, and we walked down the rest of the aisle together. This is the sweetest thing that's ever happened in my entire life. It gave me chills when he did it. We then exchanged our vows. After the wedding, everybody was talking about how I was so beautiful. Way more beautiful than Emily. I also heard people calling me and Alaric the perfect little couple. One of my uncles called me and Emily and made us stand side by side, and he was like, I can't believe how much you've transformed since the last time I've seen you. Hearing all this, my sister's face was full of frustration. I felt a little bit pleasure with how things turned out, I'm not gonna lie. I bet she is now regretting accepting my invitation and probably has gone crying in front of my parents again, but I don't care. I'm totally done with her and anyone who has ever seen her as the golden child. There's a lot more that went on, but hey, that's the gist of it. So I'll just go ahead and say it. I think the best person in this story was Alaric. I mean, Alaric saw through the evilness that his soon-to-be fiancé was. And yeah, some people in the comments section were saying Alaric is a dog. And why is he a dog? Based on some comments, it's because he flip-flopped and went for the same sister to another sister. But at the same time, I think Alaric saw OP for who she is. A kind, respectful, and beautiful woman. And he didn't care if maybe she was chubby or whatever word she specifically used. He loved her. And he saw the vile toxicness that was her sister, and he just didn't want to be a part of it. So no, I don't blame Alaric, and I think he was actually a very good human. But hey, if we don't have the same opinion, that's totally cool. Drop your opinion down below and let's discuss it in the comment section. I have a pretty successful business. So when my son approached me and said, hey, I'm gonna marry the love of my life, which by the way, I can't stand her, I said, you know what? I'll still pay for the wedding. I'm going to give you everything you need. Well, this girl tries to take advantage of my kindness by trying to throw the most luxurious, lavish wedding you've ever seen. And if you think you've seen a bridezilla, you've seen nothing yet. I'm about to tell you guys a rather twisting tale involving my son and his treacherous fiancée, which left me quite hard feelings for them as they went on to marry each other. I'm out of my mind over this wicked girl, whom my son claims to be her fiancé. I have little regard for her, and I don't really think that my son would be able to live far enough away from her. All thanks to her overbearing nature. I'm now left with utter disgust for her as she walked in front of me and my associates this morning and told us that she had made all the arrangements for the wedding, and neither me nor any of my friends and relatives were invited to it. Her surreal words left a disdainful mark on my very being and shattered all my dreams and aspirations that I had for my son's wedding. I seek the help of you guys here about the decision that I should make in order to get over this apparent situation. So, before I take you to the actual scene where this whole drama unfolded, let me give you guys a clear description of the time when it all began.
It was the gentle breeze of a Sunday morning, and I was preparing for the prayer as I usually do, when suddenly I got a hold of my son Rudy, accompanied by his extravagant girl. She looked so graceful and captivating that even all my friends and our neighbor found it really difficult to get their gazes off of her in the first instance. That gorgeous, thought-provoking girl was Evelyn. Even I was surmounted by the thoughts of how come my dull and dippy boy got such a glamorous girl? Who knew that she would become the reason for all my worries and displeasures in the near future? It was certainly the first time that I came across Evelyn. I knew that Rudy was dating some really fancy girl, as he used to ask me for money to bear the expenses, but I knew very little about this girl. They two seemed to be going together for quite some time, and I knew from his behavior that he was quite serious about her. Though he made enough to fulfill his expenses, he was finding it hard to bear the extra expenses that found him after the inclusion of Evelyn in his life. Needless to say, he was not able to satisfy her expenses with his petty job, as the user support person is one of the regular business firms in our city that offered him enough money to carry his usual expenses. While her demands and lifestyle were so extensive that they left Rudy little money for their other expenses, he would often ask me to help him with his overbearing expenses and other usual deals. I really didn't care about it as much because, well, at that time my business of providing homemade condiments was going quite well. I started this business about 20 years ago with the help of my friends and other ladies from the neighborhood, who are also my associates in this friendly business venture. Though most of the rights and responsibilities lie with me as the real proprietor of the whole facility, I got to start my own food processing company after the death of my loving husband after just 2 years of marriage. Rudy was all too young to remember all that, and this is the reason, well, that he hardly has any memories of his father. I was the one who raised him from then on and pretty much fulfilled every single demand. He loves me so much and is always attentive to my thoughts and ideas in general. I began to encounter a few changes in his demeanor from the moment he started dating Evelyn, and trust me, the changes were not so positive at all. Rudy, who gave me a great deal of time and enjoyed being with me, is now mostly gone with Evelyn. The other thing is that he shows little concern for my thoughts about Evelyn. I've tried many times to ask him to add some sense to Evelyn, who spends money like water. She has literally no regard for money and does not even give a thought at all. And the response that I got from Rudy was that she comes from a well-off family, that she simply could not possibly alter the lifestyle that she had. That was utter bullcrap. I mean, we've all had to mold our needs to requirements on the basis of the circumstances, and who would possibly not get that? Every time he asked me not to talk about it with Evelyn, as he was skeptical of the response that would await afterwards. One day, as I was planning the new product that we were going to launch in our food processing facility, I caught Evelyn resting in the yard that we had in front of our house. She seemed to be waiting for Rudy and was in a hurry to get somewhere. Moreover, the outfit that she had was so glamorous and enchanting that it even left me in awe of her. I quickly approached her to speak to her, and she responded quite well by praising me for the business that I've developed in the past few years. The way she was speaking about it gave me a true notion of what she was up to. As she was talking about the whole thing, I sensed a grudge to have it all. I mean, she was really impressed by the whole business thing that I've had, and she readily wanted to embrace it all as her own. It's actually been about 20 years of being in business, and it pretty much know how women react to things that they want for themselves, and I was able to sense that same feeling in Evelyn's eyes at the time. I responded to her surreal thoughts by saying that I went through a lot of hardships and difficulties in setting up this business that I own today. And trust me, it was really enduring for me to make it thrive, and she was not much impressed by my answer, as I knew that she was just so fascinated by the bright side of it. Yet, she totally undermined the hard work that went into it, though she nodded to me in acceptance of the whole thing, citing the moment I took it to ask her about her glamorous and rich lifestyle, which I was forbidden to ask by Rudy. I thought that maybe words could help her understand things quite clearly, though I was completely wrong in doing so. She left it all of a sudden, giving me a not-so-good response by calling me out as a sicko. This was really absurd from her side. I mean, it didn't really hurt me a lot, though I got engaged with my work that I had left in the middle. I knew that it would come up to me soon enough. In the evening, as I was resting inside the home, I was approached by Rudy, who was all frustrated over something. I just guessed that maybe I was aware of it, and I was extremely correct in that. He was agitated over the fact that I've confronted Evelyn over her expenses, and he told me that he told me not to do it. I tried to let him know, saying stuff like I didn't say anything that could possibly hurt her or that could devalue her. Instead, she gave me a rather impolite look after the whole ordeal, as if I had done something to her. Rudy was in no way getting my point and was getting crazy on me over this whole thing. Rather, he was not troubled by the fact that his girlfriend showed some unusual behavior towards me. I felt really bad about this whole thing, and so I left Rudy there. His behavior towards me was not justified in any sense. It was the last time I had any talk with him related to Evelyn. Moreover, from then on, Evelyn and I never really shared a conversation together, and we developed this spiteful attitude towards each other. Things went this way for a while, and I pretty much got busy with launching this new product and the preparation that went into it. I recall that after about 4 months, Rudy walked across me as I was getting inside to the sales structure of the different products. He told me that he had something really important to tell me. I thought it could either be related to his office or something other than that, though he rarely told me about anything else that did not require him to ask for my help. He had a promotion in his job that pretty much improved his financial situation, but along with the increase in pay, his expenses also increased significantly. Though he rarely approached me for my help very often, he would approach me whenever he found it hard to get done with his finances. Well, this time he was all excited and joyful over the whole thing. He disclosed to me then that Evelyn and he were thinking of getting married. I was not shocked by it, as I knew that they were both quite serious about each other. I had some real issues with Evelyn, yet I did not express them in front of Rudy, seeing that, well, it would make him weary of me. I was finally happy for my son that he was getting along with his life with Evelyn. After it, we had a bit of dinner with friends and associates where I announced Rudy's marriage. They were all equally excited for this wedding, as they loved him very much. After the dinner, as we were getting back to the house, Rudy asked me to finance his wedding as Evelyn was making him go mad over her proposal of a grand wedding. So I assured him that I would throw a grand wedding ceremony for him. My words have quite an enduring effect on him, and he hugged me with joy after hearing that. Though Evelyn was not there with us that moment because she was partying with her friends. I asked Rudy to invite her, but she refused, citing her friends, and I guess she might still be angry with me over the previous dialogue between us, and as soon as Rudy heard from me about the wedding, he called Evelyn to confront her about the whole thing. He expressed that she was also really excited about the proposal, actually. So, the other day, as I got back from the facility, I caught Evelyn waiting for me in the drawing room. It had been a very, very long time since I've seen her. She was there to confront me about her wedding preparations and other things that she wanted to be included in. The absurd look on her face that was there when I last saw her was replaced by an overwhelming smile and a gentle regard for me. It all might be because of the fact that I was financing her wedding. I knew that it was all just a lie and that she had quite different feelings for me as a whole. Yet I was excited for my son's wedding either way, and I did not want my suspicion of Evelyn to destroy my son's wedding at all. So I got engaged in the preparation of the wedding with Evelyn. Her notions of the wedding was totally different from mine. I wanted to offer them a complete wedding experience that also included their vacation plan after the wedding. On the other hand, she was more readily convinced to have a rather lavish setting for her wedding. Apart from that, I wanted to invite all of my friends and associates to the ceremony, which was opposed by her, as she just wanted to invite all her rich, affluent friends to the wedding. I was able to sense a kind of resentment in her eyes as I told him that my friends and other relatives would also be present there. After a while, we were joined by Rudy, who got back from his office and was now accompanying Evelyn in finalizing the details of the marriage. And it was after that they both came to ask me for a sum of $100,000 for the wedding ceremony. I froze for a bit after hearing their appeal, and it took me a while to get a hold of the situation. I had not really suspected that they would be asking me for such a huge amount of money, but it wasn't as if I was trying to hold on to my money. It was just that I wanted to minimize spending on useless, frivolous stuff, and instead leave some money for the vacation as well. So I told them that I would offer them the required amount, and they were delighted by my decision. They went jumping on with excitement, and I told them that I would not hand over the whole amount to them at once, but instead I would give them the exact amount required for the necessary stuff. And this was one thing that I wanted them to know. They were completely blown away by my offer, as I knew that they wanted the exact whole $100,000. After much discussion with themselves, they both agreed to my policy. It was a great relief, as I was not expecting Evelyn to accept my demand so easily. Yes, I was not able to believe that they've agreed to my resolve, because the other moment they were just so dejected by the offer. Anyways, I was happy that they got what I was trying to convince them of. I really wanted to save them some money for the vacation plans after the wedding, and so we agreed to the preparation of the wedding. It took us a while to get the whole thing done, and her resolutions and suggestions were also extensive and pretentious, yet I allowed them all. After the plans were finalized, I handed them the required money to be paid to the stores and other agencies. Their overwhelming faces reflected the kind of joy and excitement that they too were having for their ceremony. And even I was all too delighted by their loving reaction as they both embraced me with their arms. After that, they both left for the required arrangements. I got involved with my own business as usual. So the next day, as I was getting ready for my meeting, I got a hold of them both that they were planning the wedding arrangements. As I approached them, they tried to hide those things from me. I took it to ask them about the stuff, and they quickly replied that it was about their wedding dresses and they wished to keep it a secret from everyone. I knew then and there that there was something else, and that could easily be sensed in his eyes. I left them there as I went forward with my meeting that I was approaching that day, though I had little speculation about them regarding the things that they were up to. So, the other day, I was relaxing with my friends and associates in the yard as we used to do. This was our way of getting relaxed with all the work and hecticness of the business. Once in a while, we would do this thing where we would bring barbecue and chill in the sunlight. Suddenly, I glanced at Evelyn and Rudy coming towards us. Their attitude was also different from the other day when they came to me asking for money. Evelyn was back to her previous demeanor, and I was completely ablaze by their conduct. It was then that she confronted me and told me that they've made all the plans and preparations for their wedding, and that neither I nor any of my friends or associates were going to be there. She withheld that she does not want to have me or any of my friends at the wedding, as she just hates the way that we behave, and that our very presence is nothing but a displeasure. While she was uttering these demeaning words, Rudy was standing in front of her, and he seemed to agree with everything that she said. I had significantly not expecting such an inglorious thing from my son and the fiancé, and her words have left a disdainful mark on my persona and image. It was in front of allies and friends that she said so. She also ridiculed them, which was even worse. They have been a part of my life and company for ages, and I owe a great deal to them for being with me all this time. Both Rudy and Evelyn left the place to manage their regular processing for the ceremony after that. It was a great shock to me, and the situation became worse as my friends and allies also left my place after hearing that. They were ridiculed by Evelyn, and so they felt utter disgust for being there for so long. Now I'm just completely wrecked by the absurd behavior of my son and his fiancée. I have not thought, even in the worst nightmares, that, well, I would get this kind of treatment from them. Even after giving them the money they needed for the wedding, they even insulted me in front of my allies and ridiculed me. I have no idea what I should do now. Due to their absurd manner, my friends left me all of a sudden. I just guessed that they're angry with me over the whole thing. I asked for help from the users on social media to give me a bit of clear suggestions on how to get out of this situation. Update number 1. It's been about a few days since the whole incident where my son and his fiancée walked up to me as I was enjoying myself with my friends and associates in the backyard. I would certainly not forget how they left me out of their succulent wedding ceremony, and I was made possible after I provided them with $100,000. Evelyn told me in front of my friends that neither I nor any of my friends were invited to her wedding because she didn't like them. Moreover, she also ridiculed them further, and so they left my place in anger. They have been my allies for 20 years, and they have a great connection with Rudy as well. Therefore, such absurd behavior from Evelyn towards them was not justified in any way. The other thing that surprised me even more was that Rudy did not interrupt Evelyn while she was making all those demeaning comments about us. Days before, I encountered them discussing some stuff in the hall, and they hid it from me as I approached them. I could not get a hold of the thing that they were up to, so I was getting late for some meeting that day. Otherwise, I would have known about their very intentions the day itself. I was dejected and felt terrible about the deeds of my son and his fiancée, and I wanted to pay for it all. So, the other day, as I got out of bed, I told Rudy that I needed to talk to him over some stuff and wanted him to call Evelyn too. I was burning with rage, yet I controlled myself as I did not want them to know about it so early. As Evelyn arrived, I confronted them and told them that I wanted my money back, all $100,000. And I've given them for the wedding. Oh gosh, the look on their faces was just so overwhelming. It was as if their souls have left the body. They had not really suspected that I would take such action, asking my money back. Evelyn was getting annoyed by the whole thing, yet she could not do a thing about it, apart from engaging in her deceiving actions. As usual, Rudy was standing near his fiancée, and he was just following every lead. I was surprised to find that her ridiculous attitude was replaced by a convincing one. She was trying to appease me by saying that I should not ask for money from them as it would significantly destroy the marriage ceremony. Then it was Rudy who said to me, "Oh, how could you do this to your own son?" and that it would be terrible of me to ask for the money back. It was after a very long time that I heard anything from him, so I told him about the way I felt that day. They kept on pressing me not to ask for the money, and, well, I was not going to be persuaded by their deceiving appeals this time. I left the room to get ready for my day while they stayed there, figuring out how they could pay me the $100,000. Update number 2. A week has passed since I asked my son and his fiancée for the money that I've given them for their wedding, and I could not really tell you guys how tense they got. Evelyn, the willy fiancée of my son, tried every possible way to deceive me in her innocent act. They wanted me to not ask for the money as the marriage ceremony was in grave danger. Not much time is left for the ceremony, and I personally think that there's no way by which they could do it. Plus, I'm extremely glad to have them worried and anxious over the whole ordeal just a few days ago. As I was moving to the facility, I was stopped by them, and I felt a bit of pity for Rudy, who was stranded in between me and Evelyn. I was shocked to find that Evelyn had lost her glow. They disclosed to me that there's no way by which they could possibly give me the money as they've deposited the required amount with the shops and agencies. Moreover, she said in a rather deceitful manner that even Rudy's salary is so low he cannot pay me anyways. Well, this time I was not getting trapped by their false tears, as it did hurt me a lot. And even I was left alone by my allies and associates in business from the moment Evelyn disgusted them that day. I have not had any connection with them since. Though I sometimes find them in the facility, they're not willing to indulge in conversation like they usually do. Evelyn has certainly destroyed my personal life, and I assure you people that I won't let them marry each other. One day, as I was getting insight into sales and production of the products in my company, I get a call from Rudy. He sounded all too tense and asked me to come home as soon as possible as he had something very, very important to tell me. I could also hear the voice of Evelyn in the background. I sensed that there was something grave as she was crying. Either for real or deceitfully, I don't know. I told them that I would come after finishing this work, and after a while I reached home and I found them waiting eagerly in the yard. I sensed that maybe it had something to do with their marriage. Well, he told me that this morning he went to the required shops and agencies where they had deposited the money for the wedding, and there he came to know that someone had collected their money from the shop by telling the shop owners that the marriage had been canceled. Well, he was really worried that somebody had stolen all their wedding money, and so he said, "How could I possibly return the whole amount to you?" On the other hand, Evelyn was throbbing with tears because her lavish wedding was completely destroyed. I mean, don't take it wrong, but it gave me immense pleasure to watch their conditions, and it was truly justified after what they did to me and my friends. Much to their discomfort, it was me who had withdrawn the whole amount from the respective shops and agencies, and the moment I disclosed it to them, their nature suddenly changed. Both of them were furious at me for not telling them about it. They said that they were really troubled by the fact that they had lost all the money. They also revealed that the past few days have been really stressful for them. None of their words had any effect on me because I knew what their real intentions were. After it, I asked them to vacate my place as I no longer wanted to share anything with them. They were completely blown away as I held this thing up to them. They would not have really any thoughts that I could ask them to leave my house all of a sudden. I've had many of them, and it really affects me to have them both in my house. Evelyn, too, had joined our house some days before, and she might have thought that I would not do anything. I'm clear in my approach that I do not want them anymore in my loving home. Update number 3. My life is now getting back to the place where it's before this whole drama unfolded. It's been about 3 weeks since I asked my son and his treacherous wife to leave my home. In between, the date also passed when they were planning to marry. This whole mess was made by Evelyn, who ingloriously left out me and my friends from the wedding, citing that she could not bear the presence of me and my friends in her lavish wedding. She wished to marry Rudy in a quite grand setting, where she could enjoy herself with her rich friends. She rejected me when I was the one who actually paid for it all. Moreover, I approved of all the settings that she probably wanted. All this was significantly destroyed by Evelyn herself, who demanded that my allies not go, and that we could not take part in the wedding, about which we were so excited about. It did not give me any kind of displeasure to say that she was the one who actually destroyed the wedding. I'm fortunate to have the support of my allies and friends who have spent so many years with me. They helped me establish my food product facility, and we've been managing it together for quite some time. We got together once again as I called them one day and asked all of them to meet me in my yard, citing that I have something really important to discuss with them. As we got together, I told them that the past few weeks have been really challenging to me as a whole, and I disclosed to them that I'm very sorry for their disgusting behavior of my son's fiancée. They, got me really well and forgave me for all the things that have unfolded in the past. They, too, seemed really worried about getting me wrong this whole time. It was then that they disclosed that they've parted ways with me because Evelyn did not like them. After that, I disclosed to them that I had let both Rudy and Evelyn out of my home. I don't think I could get hold of them anymore. Update number 4. Life is really fun when the people you love and you share your time with. Otherwise, it is as if you're bound to a cell. And then every day is like a nightmare. This was exactly what I felt when I was left alone by my allies and friends due to some voluptuous behavior by my son and his fiancée. Now that I have found the care and love of my friends and family, every day is more fun and wonderful. One thing that you guys might be thinking about the $100,000 that I gave to Rudy and Evelyn for their ceremony setting, I have not made it clear if I got back the whole amount or not. Well, I have not given $100,000 to Evelyn. Instead, I just gave them about half of the amount that was retired and for the pre-booking, and the rest I've saved for further payment. And the vacation plan that I've readily planned for both of them? Yeah, though, it all went in vain, as Evelyn turned towards me and held me out of her wedding. I pretty much knew everyone in the stores where they've deposited the money, so it wasn't very difficult for me to recover the whole sum. I still feel bad for Rudy, as he did not get the wedding function that they both dreamt of. Needless to say, there was not much that I could have possibly done after their all-too-deceitful deal. Rudy and Evelyn got settled together in an apartment that Rudy was able to afford with his salary. Though he did not have much problem with the money after his salary raise, he does find it really challenging to maintain Evelyn's requirements. Evelyn has always been so demeaning and focused on her needs. Moreover, to her, it was not just about fulfilling her demands. Rather, she wanted every other thing that was significantly owned by her friends. Because of this, they both had various arguments with each other, and it was quite normal for both of them to get involved in such conflicts. Well, one very fine evening, as I got back from a holiday vacation that I've planned with my friends, I get a call from Rudy. He looked quite tense and was complaining to me about Evelyn. I was quite correct in guessing that they both had some arguments, and the other night because of some really expensive jewelry that Evan demanded from him, and he called me to help me get that jewelry. Though I made it crystal clear to him that I did not wish to get involved in their affair and that he should not call me again. After that, I hung up the phone. During the entire day, I kept wondering if I was wrong in doing so, or maybe I should have helped him. I could not get my head away from this thought, and with this riddle revolving in my head, I'll end my story here.
So, I don't know what was up with OP or Rudy in this story, but they were the most large walking floor mats I've ever seen. I mean, at the end of the story, why was OP even contemplating, oh, did I make the right decision about not giving my son some money so he could buy this girl jewelry? This girl, she was out of control. I mean, she wanted the most lavish wedding. She wanted $100,000, and she was walking all over Rudy. And besides that fact, she has the absolute nerve, the audacity to say, actually, OP, you're not invited. I know you paid for it all, but you can't bring any of your friends either. Guys, why in her head would she think that OP would not cancel everything and try to take her money back? I mean, what was she thinking? I would like to hear from you guys. Maybe you would have done something differently if you were in OP's position, and you might have been like, you know what? I'm going to put an end to this before she gets out of control. So drop your comments downstairs.
Oh, my ex is back in my life, but it is not in a good way. I'm happily with this girl now, and here comes my ex, who I was head over heels with, just to ruin everything. Well, my wedding day was coming up, supposed to be the biggest day of my life, right? Well, guess what happened? Well, you might have guessed it. My ex decided to crash it. Okay, so this is going to be a long story. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to share my life with strangers, but something about this situation compels me to tell it. It all started when my ex-fiancée, Megan. Some years ago, some context between us. I'm 31 years old and she's 30. We both work in journalism, different companies, and she's a team leader. Thing is, she was the first woman that I ever had a serious relationship with. I knew her for 5.5 years. We dated for 2. We were somewhat friends before, but Once we got to talking comfortably, we couldn't stop. Imagine speaking to someone and never getting tired of ever running out of things to talk about. The first person to notice your small behaviors. Our mutual friend and colleagues would leave us alone after a point. We could start at dinner time and keep having conversations that lasted till 3 a.m. or even later. We started dating eventually. We got along really well, though she was pretty self-absorbed and sometimes short-tempered. We'd spend time talking about her problems, insecurities, etc. Something going on at her house, so she was at her lowest. We'd also been happily having dinners with my family where we talk about the future, play board games, and talk about the weirdest things over quarantine. We had been together for years, and I thought that we were meant to be. I thought I had everything figured out with her. We even had plans to get married soon, and I proposed to her, and everything was going great until that one conversation. I remember feeling shocked and hurt when she ghosted me for a week. She became really distant. At first, I did not think much of it. She kept coming back, so I assumed she was just busy. Our contact was over that period of time. It was spotty, but was still there. When we did talk, however, she would always talk about all the things she was doing without me with our mutual friends. I felt incredibly lonely and abandoned. As someone who has been prone to loneliness my entire life, this got me really sad. Soon she cut off contact entirely, stopped responding to all my text messages, and never talked to me again. All I wanted was an answer. I think day and night about what I might have done wrong. I didn't want this gem of a relationship to go away so suddenly. I'd been awaiting for over a month with so many surprise plans just to make her and us feel great about our relationship. Make up for the lost time. Some gifts, a trip around Christmas, and heck, even more. Eventually, I went to her friend. They've been very close since high school for help. She knows her the best, so her insight would help the most. She advised me to go to her house and have a conversation face to face, which is such a simple answer I was almost mad at myself for not even thinking about it. So I did just that. After a bit of chit-chat, she told me that did not want to be together anymore. That broke me. After all I had been through, but the conversation continued. I told her, "You could have told me directly instead of hinting at this by ghosting me," and I asked her to give me the reason why. She simply said that it won't work out between us anymore. She's no longer interested in marrying me. I was devastated. I almost threw up texting my friend that we'd broken up. I'd never been one to deal with losing people very well, and this was no exception. I took a breather, walked around for some time, and when I came back, I laid everything out in front of her. The plan to help us get back will start small. Even if we can't go back to the same thing, I'll be there to make up for it. We can spend time apart if it helps. Let's take a break and reevaluate in the future. Let's not rush to this quickly. She said it was a well-thought-out decision on her part. She didn't want to go back at all, and she did not budge and felt like I wasn't respecting her choice. I get that. I was still processing this too. I was looking at her perspective, and it's only fair to expect her to see mine. It's not fair to drop everything, leave, and have me accept it without expressing my feelings at all. But she kept reiterating that this was it. No going back. The way she was shutting me out now felt bad, and I told her to, quote, "Please leave me alone," and left her place after that as I needed time to forget about her. I fully believe two adults can convey their feelings, understand each other, and still disagree on their future after that. I didn't say this part to her, but I felt running away from this can't bring us to a mutual understanding at all. And I considered it fair for her to fully hear me out. Even if she disagrees, that's fine, but I need some closure to move on too. She didn't want to give clear answers, and I think I deserved a complete answer and not something that doesn't fully explain the situation. I fell into a dark place after she left me. I could not sleep, and the wedding was only 3 months away.
I was eating my feelings away, and before I knew it, I was on the brink of obesity. I was 216 pounds, all because of Pringles, pizza, and drinks. Lots and lots of sodies. I did try reaching out to Megan about 2 weeks after she broke up, but she was very short in her text messages, so I didn't even bother trying to communicate after that. I removed her number and stopped using social media altogether. I felt stupid. I felt used. I had to be put on medication because the depression was simply so bad. I couldn't leave my house without getting physically sick. A couple years back, I started to hang out with friends to try and get out of my own head. I didn't have any interest in dating anybody, but it was eye-opening to see what all my friends had to say about the relationship and the breakup. They also asked me to open up to new relationships and even made me create a Tinder profile. A friend of mine, she dragged my booty to a gym, which is in my area, and really got me into it. I too believed it could distract me from my depression. I also met this fitness instructor, Rose, who conducted quite an amount of classes each week. During my trial period in the gym, I didn't initially find her attractive, nor was I really interested in her as a person, as she was 4 years older than me. But when I came back suddenly, all I could think about was her and her smile. We spent a minimum of 4 hours a week with each other, including text messages in between, and besides family, I thought I consistently see and talk to her more than any other person in my life. So I found myself getting quite attached, you could say. Apart from the fact that I find her obviously attractive, we had some fantastic banter each session. We talked very openly about anything that comes up, and I think our personalities are a perfect match. We talk about TV, movies, our weekend, past relationships, and obviously exercise. I should say she helped a lot in motivating me to reduce my weight. We kept each other ambitious, and I gained a lot of muscle. Even packs, never had them, six-pack, fell in love with it. She had previously given me her number without even me asking, so I decided to approach her via text message. We would text in between our sessions, and these are mostly initiated by her, but always continued into about 4 messages each. About, changing session times, casual jokes, and pictures we found funny. And pictures of my diet sheet. Some of this, I would say, felt like flirting. I said hey and asked if I could ask her a question. She says sure, with a smiley face, which I felt was very important to the dialogue. So I asked if she was, allowed to hang out with clients outside of her job, because there was a show at a bar down the road from the gym. She texted back immediately saying yes, and that she was glad I asked because she could not even wait another second. We went to the show. Stayed until about 2 a.m., and we weren't tired and wanted to keep hanging out. Her, being really sweet, says super shyly, "I want to keep hanging out, but the bar's closed. Would it be weird if we watched a movie at my place?" She was blushing like mad, and I said yes, it was so cute. We cuddled up on her couch and watched a scary movie. I wasn't too touchy to let her know that I'm not just in this for a physical connection. I walked her to her car and asked when I could see her again. We made plans for Wednesday, then she leaned in and she kissed me. I almost fell out of my seat. We kind of giggled about it. I guess it was obvious that I was shaking. Rose is very laid back, shares similar interests in games, sports, and shows. She's also very chatty and patient, just like me. She makes me laugh a lot, and I genuinely thought she's very lovely of a woman who has an amazing sense of humor. At this point, she seemed to like me and become more comfortable with me. Over time, we fell in love with each other, and I knew I had found my soulmate. 5 months back, it wasn't just after midnight, she told me to come out to the balcony, just to look at the stars, and so I bundled up over my pajamas and went outside. That's where she kissed me. Her heart was beating so hard I could feel it. I was so confused at the time, I had no idea why her heart would be beating that hard to just look at some stars with me.
She saw my confused face, then proceeded to say some romantic crap I can't even remember because my brain went all swirly and I started to tear up. She asked me if I would be her husband. I said yes, and we made out in the cold. This was perfect. It was romantic, simple, and private, and to this day, this was the happiest moment in my life. We decided to have a small wedding. Very small. With just our immediate family there, about 20 people. We got married a few days back at a venue. This is known for holding very large events, but we hired a smaller room there. We prepared for the entire wedding in a few months with the help of a wedding planner, and everything went quickly. On my wedding day, what happened was, I saw that my ex-fiancée Megan showed up to our morning ceremony wearing the shortest dress I've ever seen, with suspenders. Could be seen for a good 6 inches before the bottom of the dress, skyscraper heels, some makeup, and costume jewelry. My father actually pulled me aside and said, "Who hired a stripper?" My mind was spinning, and I could not believe what I was seeing. Before I could react, she took a seat in the front row. Everything in my body felt physically sick. I had absolutely no idea even what to do at this point. I don't know how she found out about my relationship. Why would she show up on my big day? Before the wedding ceremony, as we're taking pictures, she walked up to me and asked if we could talk. I was hesitant, but I knew that I needed closure, so I agreed. We talked and walked to a secluded spot. She told me that the reason she had left me was that this some woman, who she called her best friend, in her office apparently told her that I was, quote, out of her league, and she should not get trapped with a loser like me. I couldn't believe she would believe something like that. Tells me she regrets every single day for leaving a gem like me, and she tells that as she was going through a tough time, she'd taken her frustration out on me. She begged me to forgive her for not seeing the good in the relationship, but I was still hurt by her words and actions. I have no interest in getting back together with her. I love Rose, and I knew that she was the one for me. I didn't want to spoil the day by causing a scene, so I politely thanked her for her apology and told her that it would take some time for me to fully forgive her. If she had reached out to me immediately after we split, I definitely think I would have taken her back, but now I see what she did, and look at it from an outsider's perspective. She continued telling me that she was unable to find any man who was truly interested in loving her, and that she wanted me back because she was getting old and could not compete with younger women. I immediately told her to leave, as I sensed where it was leading. She disrespectfully told me that she would be staying. Started pointing out how the old bride is, that she won't be a decent match for me. She told me that she wanted to, quote, help me come to my senses before the marriage happens. I was disgusted by this because it was obvious what this woman was doing. I don't understand why she's doing this because we had been civil with each other until now. I could not believe she would try to ruin my wedding day with such selfishness. She did not have any remorse, and she was still completely smug, and kept calling me her man. Her mission was to make the wedding about her. Now, I could do 2 things. I could either be the bigger person and plainly tell her that she's going to have to move on, or I could tell her what I think of her. But being polite would have opened the door to her saying, I know I was selfish. I want to change. Blah, blah, blah. She'll say what she thinks I want to hear, even if she doesn't mean any of it, because she wants the attention. Of course, I'll stand firm, but she would think she sees a crack in my armor, and she would redouble her efforts trying to pry at the perceived crack. So, I ended up throwing insults at her. I said, I hope you realize that you've lost me because you're so self-absorbed. Now it's too late. You treat people terribly, and that's why nobody loves you. I definitely don't love you at all anymore. Better get out of the hall, parasite. I obviously had a lot that I wanted to get off my chest. I doubt she's going to learn anything from this, but it'd certainly make my chest lighter to tell her how bad she is. What would you guys do? Bad behavior brings its own punishment.
She's already getting a taste of that of her own, yet her behavior did not stop there. When my mother noticed us and came, Megan manipulated her by repeating whatever she had just told me. To be honest, my mother was not a big fan of Rose because she was older than me. So my mother used this chance and tried to stop the wedding, but I put my foot down. I threatened to remove my mother from the ceremony if she didn't stop interfering with my life. I said if my wedding was such a bad thing, then get the heck out. She looked horrified and I was like, well, go. My uncle began to berate me and said that I'm awful and she paid for the wedding. He asked if I really wanted her to go, and I told my mother to either shut up about Megan or leave. She stayed, but was cold the rest of the night, and I heard my mother and uncle joking about how they should rip up the check that she gave me for how I spoke to her. Anyways, she backed off, and that's all I wanted. Now, I asked my best man and a few other mutual friends to take her aside and try to reason with Megan, but no. She kept insisting that she was the one for me, and that Rose was just a passing fancy. Didn't expect it, but Rose decides to throw her out of the hall. She called the wedding planner and got security to escort her forcefully. I was relieved. Megan seemed hurt and upset, and some of my guests thought it was being too harsh. As the ceremony began, I tried my best to focus on the beautiful moment, and just forget about Megan's absolute madness. But as we exchanged vows, I could not help but feel a pang of worry that the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with was now more than a bitter ex-girlfriend, causing chaos on my wedding day. Can you even move on from this? I've been working on my growth a lot and finally found my soulmate. Now my ex comes and ruins the special day. On one hand, I don't want to hold a grudge. But on the other hand, I don't want to be a doormat either. She forced me to humiliate her. This is on her, right? Update number 1. I did not expect that much, and well, it's a lot of replies. But since you've taken the time to write to me, I've read every comment, thank you so much. We had a small reception yesterday. Yes, it was supposed to be the next day, but was not possible. Kind of like a brunch. I found out from mutual friends that Megan had texted all of them during my wedding, asking when they were getting there because she had invited herself to the wedding. I don't understand why some people feel the need to try to bring others down on what is supposed to be a joyous occasion. I had not heard about Megan since the wedding, and I assumed that she had moved on, but I received a call from her today. She called to apologize for her behavior at the wedding and wished us all the happiness in the world. I was surprised by her call, but I accepted her apology and simply thanked her for being mature enough to apologize. However, I feel very suspicious of her motives. It was as if she wanted to keep tabs on us and make sure that we're still together. Something was definitely off, but I did not want to ruin our honeymoon by being paranoid. Yes, I and Rose are planning to go on a honeymoon, probably somewhere warm, with plenty of beaches and sunsets. We started making arrangements, and my mother was surprisingly helpful, even offering to pay for some of the expenses. I did not accept the money, though. I should also tell you that Rose's family are disapproving of our relationship. Even for today's reception, they insisted that we invited all of their extended family, many of whom we've never even met. We tried to push back and explain that we had a limited budget and wanted to keep the guest list to only close friends and family, but they just got so angry. They didn't contribute anything to the honeymoon planning, not even the namesake. They pass the comments whenever they see me. On top of that, they're not happy at all, and my ex is still in touch with me. Somehow, they overheard my call with Megan. They think this is proof that I'm not fully committed to Rose, and one of Rose's uncles, who was drinking heavily, began loudly joking that Rose should annul the marriage, and because her taste in men is not her thing. As for my mother, she began to come around to the idea of Rose as her daughter-in-law. I'm so happy to see them getting along now. I also apologized to her for yelling at the wedding. Until now, I feel so bad it wasn't me that day. You all know why. Rose had been my rock throughout the wedding drama. Our honeymoon would be the start of a beautiful new chapter in our lives together despite the struggles. Well, that's it for now. Thanks again for all your comments. Update number 2. Hey everyone. It's been a few days and I think you deserve an update. After finalizing the trip, we started packing our bags and getting ready to leave. The day before our flight, we received a strange package in the mail. It was from Megan, a note wishing us a happy honeymoon and a set of matching t-shirts with our names printed on them. I was really creeped out by the gesture. I think my mother must have told about the honeymoon to her, otherwise there's no way she would have known about it. Well, to confirm, Rose called my mother, who sheepishly admitted that she'd mentioned the honeymoon in passing. Rose is obviously worried that Megan would continue to interfere in our lives and cause a more problem. I assured her that I would not let that happen because Megan is no longer a part of my life. On the 4th day of the trip, we were walking back to our hotel room after a really romantic dinner, and I saw a familiar figure walking towards us. It was Megan. The sight of her disgusted me. I couldn't believe she stalked me all the way to the honeymoon. She had this huge smile on her face as if nothing was wrong and hugged us to congratulate. We asked, "Why are you there?" to which she blatantly said, "Oh, I just simply could not resist seeing you. Saw your post on Insta." It's my privacy." I yelled at her and she left after that. The rest of our honeymoon was ruined for me. First she spoiled my wedding and now the honeymoon too, huh? After returning from the trip, Megan called me. This was a couple days ago. This time she wanted to meet alone to return some items. I wanted to get this over with and put an end to this once and for all. So, we met up at a local shop and Megan seemed genuinely remorseful, until she asked me if I was happy in my marriage. I told her that I'm happily married and that she needed to move on from her past instead of being obsessed with some ex from many years ago. That my life is now settled, so don't interfere. But she guilt-tripped me, reminding me of our past and promises we've made. She still doesn't seem to understand that I and her are over. I'm a married man now. She's rationalized things to a degree where she thinks she still has a chance. In her world, she seems to honestly think I'll leave Rose for her. She tells me that she's been miserable these past few years. She did end up hooking up with the guy she was talking to after we split, but after they hooked up, he blew her off. Apparently, her latest boyfriend won't tolerate her outburst and mood swings, and broke up with her before my wedding day. I told her to get help and left the shop immediately. Update number 3. Hey guys, just another update. Thank you to everybody who offered support and shared your own stories. It means more to me than I express in words. I realized that Megan's motivation for attending my wedding, trying to mess with it and now trying to get into my life, amounts to an attempt to reclaim her dominion over me and ultimately everything. She often sends these creepy letters. After our last meeting, she called me drunk several times to complain about her boyfriend and how much she misses me, etc. She keeps on crying and sounded kind of like she was depressed. I calmed her down for a while and she lost her mind when I told her that this will be the last time I'm talking with her and she should not contact me ever again. She starts accusing me of leading her on, even though I've made it very clear that I was not interested in her at all. I just wanted to mention before I wrote this, I'd been ignoring her for a while and was wondering if there was anything I should do to stop her. Anyways, I just kept ignoring her, did not respond, blocked her number. The calls and messages haven't stopped, but they have slowed. I'm just going to leave it at that. I've realized from the advice of friends and your comments that leaving her hanging is probably the thing that bothers her the most. Every minute I spend just paying attention to her, even negative attention, is one more minute that she gets what she wants. My silence says, and I quote, "You're too insignificant for me to even respond." Without words,
I can be cool, detached, uninterested guy I need to be without feeding her desperation. I will not give her my attention. She doesn't deserve it. I'm done talking to her about it on any level now. She's not welcome. She will not be involved in my life, and I don't need her assistance or feel like sharing much of anything with her. Ever. Turns out she's been recently telling people fake rumors, in the hope that they'll stop inviting my wife and me to get-togethers or parties. That I wronged her. I was abusive, cheated on her many times, and tried to force myself upon her, and much more garbage. That I just am so shocked about. I never acted inappropriately with this woman, but only when I had to defend myself against her violent brother. These have spread through my friend group, but it's helped me figure out who are my good friends, and I've distanced myself from others. The problem is that Rose has a few mutual connections with my ex, but she believes my side. I don't know what to do at this point. It honestly never bothered my wife or me that she was back or in certain common groups, but what does bother me are the lies and how she has to try to bring me down or ruin my reputation for revenge. Update number 4. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate all the different perspectives and advice. I took a much-needed break. Went over to my friends and we watched the game, ordered food, and watched a movie. Reconnected them with others. It felt nice. It was a distraction too in some way. Sorry that I could not update you all, but a lot's happened since my last update. 5 weeks ago, Megan's intense episodes of paranoia and delusions turned into full-blown stalking. She followed me to work, to the gym, and even to shops. One day she went to Rose in the Walmart and began accusing her of stealing me away and then attacked her, pushing her body. You can certainly think of this also as a what the heck situation, but that's the way she is. My in-laws asked me to get a restraining order on her, and it seems like my once pretty good life was slowly being infiltrated by this literal jerk of a person. I don't want to rehash the past, but it just seemed like this woman can't move on with her life. There was one comment that resonated with me that said that I must have been conditioned to deal with this kind of behavior. That's accurate. My parents always had a tumultuous relationship, and I grew up witnessing their constant fighting and reconciling. So I never really learned healthy boundaries. But reading through the comments and doing some research made me realize that it's not okay to let somebody do that. So I made a decision. To protect me and my family, I pressed charges against Megan for assault and battery. The cops took immediate action. First, they investigated the incident at Walmart and collected statements from witnesses. Then they found her at a nearby park and approached her calmly and informed her of the charges against her. She denied everything and claimed that my wife had provoked her, but she didn't know that we had the evidence. She was taken to a local jail to await trial. Sometimes, when I see a notification from an unknown number or an email address, I think that Megan is just trying to contact me again. The memory of her showing up uninvited and trying to ruin our special day would always linger in the back of my mind. The scars of her behavior would always remain with me. It's hard to forget the pain and betrayal that came from someone you once trusted and loved. I recently heard that during her time in jail, she was diagnosed with a severe mental illness, bipolar personality disorder. She was transferred to a psychiatric hospital and is now admitted there. And I'm now relieved to finally have some peace in my life. I hope she is never released from the hospital. I and Rose are now focused on healing from the trauma. We're planning to move to a different city just for a fresh start. Thank you again for everybody in this support. Okay guys, the comment section on this one was wild. There were a lot of people basically taking up for OP, but there were also plenty of people arguing with those comments saying, guys, I don't know what story you were listening to, but OP is a floor mat. I mean, he can't even decide between his ex and the girl he's about to marry. I want to know where you stand on this. Don't worry about arguments because there is going to be some difference of opinions on this one. Let's talk about it in the comment section down below. Which side are you on?
My fiancé has always been a bit too close with this male friend, Aaron. Well, just a few days before we got married, she had a bachelorette party. And guess who went? Aaron. It was only supposed to be the girls, but I guess he got the invite too. And guess what I received? A text message, video attached, of Aaron in the hot tub with my soon-to-be wife, and they were cuddling. You know what I'm going to do about it?
Okay, here's the deal, everyone. I'm about to tell you the story of my life, that basically ruined at this point, actually. My fiancée Summer and I had planned to get married this weekend. We were so in love, and our lives seemed perfect, and we wanted our marriage to be perfect. We were on the edge for months trying to plan, perfect everything, making sure nothing is out of place, but then I found out something that turned my life upside down. And not for the better. But before I tell you all about the betrayal I had to suffer, let me take you back to the time our love story started. You guys deserve a cute little background check to understand why I'm so infuriated right now. Summer and I were like two peas in a pod. We had the same interests, same dreams, morals, values, and everything else as well. It was like we were meant for each other, and so we decided to seal the deal and get engaged. Fight us just like the rock-solid foundation that we were based on. I mean, it was everything that our relationship was relying on. We both valued honesty, and we wanted each other to be loyal and quite frank. There was never a reason for me to doubt Summer's faithfulness. I was always so proud of the fact that we had so much trust for each other, and I would always tell my friends and family about it as well, because I felt like it was something that I had the right to boast about. But what I stumbled upon, I don't think I have the right anymore, because the trust, the loyalty, everything that we had going on just shattered like it was made of glass. Anyways, even with all the trust that we had going on, there was always this one thing in a relationship that made me super uncomfortable. It was my fiancée Summer's relationship with her best friend Aaron. They'd been best friends since they were like 5 or so I understand why they're so close, and they are very, very close as they were, but I feel like once you get engaged or married to someone, there's a certain boundary that needs to be followed regarding your best friends that's of different genders. I understand that they shared a lot of memories together and that their connection was purely for the tonic. But my being uncomfortable was always treated as if it was me being insecure about the relationship. This wasn't even the case because I was very secure in our relationship. At first, I tried to be cool about it, and I pretended like it was not bothering me as much because I did not want people to see me as a guy who can't handle a few guy friends around. So I just wanted to trust Summer and share a respect for her friendship. However, as a relationship group, but nagging feelings inside of me that, makes you feel like you want to throw up every time, it just would not go away, no matter how hard I tried. Even though it made me uncomfortable, and I tried to ignore it, there were moments when I simply could not. So I tried to talk to somebody about it. I wanted to be upfront and honest about how I felt because I feel like she deserves to know where I was coming from and what I was dealing with, right? But for some reason, she would always brush me off and tell me that what I was feeling was not really that true either, because I was simply overreacting. She told me that they were really close friends, and she told me that I had nothing to worry about because she never saw him in that way and that Aaron was like a brother to her. But I just never felt like she was being honest about it. Or maybe that's just what I think now that I know the entire truth. But at the time, I decided to try to let it go because I felt like she would not lie to me about something else. Who says this? Especially considering she now knew how I felt about the entire thing as well. So we carried on with our lives. We had a pretty solid relationship, so I didn't want anything to ruin that because she genuinely brought so much happiness to my life. She made me feel like I could just be happy, Life just wasn't about living, it's about being happy as well. I didn't know that before she came into my life, but she reminded me about that, and I didn't want to let that go because of a stupid guy that I could not handle my fiancé being friends with. Honestly, people often found us, or, well, would not find us, but our friends and stuff looked up to us to provide them with like advice and stuff for having a seemingly perfect relationship. Everyone was also curious about our secrets, because we had just a sort of relationship that people looked up to, and that people felt like, this was a perfect amount of love and appreciation that one should have for the other. We shared stories of our adventures together, and we told everybody how instead of just focusing on our own wins and success, we would celebrate each other's wins as well, and how we would provide unwavering support with each other in tough times. However, that was soon about to go down the drain. Actually, it did go down the drain. That's why I'm writing this post in the first place. I think the reason is it was easy for both of us to get caught up in this mess because deep down, we weren't the perfect couple that everyone thought we were. We had a lot of cracks in our relationship, and I was always insecure about her relationship with Aaron, and we'd always fight about that. And that would lead us to get frustrated and get mad at each other for the stupidest stuff ever. That was something that our friends did not know. We were happy about it. No one had to know the cracks running in our relationship. Anyways, what our friends also did not know was that we were about to go through the toughest battle life could ever throw our way. And at this point, I'm not sure we're going to come out of it as the same perfect couple everybody saw us once to be. It happened around 2 days before my wedding. Summer was at her bachelorette party, and even though it's usually girls only, she invited Aaron. Like, dude, why is there a guy present there at your bachelorette party? Especially one that's caused so many fights in our relationship. To be fair, though, she told me I could invite any close girlfriends of mine if I wanted, but I just didn't have any that were this close. There were only one who I would be close with, and her name was Lillian, and she was my first ever friend. But then she started liking me during high school, and things just got really awkward between us. So now we're on a need-to-talk basis. Although, Summer did get introduced to her once, and they hit it off really well, so sometimes I see Lillian over at my house when I come from work, but I don't really mind that much. So, even though I could invite anyone I wanted, I was still pretty mad about Aaron being at my soon-to-be wife's bachelorette, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to have another fight just days before our magical day. I was so bent on making the entire week perfect, and I was ready to put my discomfort at the back of my mind just so we could have a peaceful week, but clearly, Summer did not think the way I did because she made no efforts to keep the peace going. Do you guys want to know what I found out? She cheated on me with Aaron, and that too at her bachelorette party, the one she clearly told me not to worry about because she was, quote, just going to have fun and be safe. But obviously that was too much to ask for from her. Midway through her party, I received a text from somebody anonymous. The person was there at Summer's bachelorette party, and they sent me this picture of Summer in a bikini, being embraced by Aaron, who was shirtless. They were both by the pool, and the hug looked so intense, even I thought they were dating for a millisecond, until I remembered that this was my fiancé we're here talking about. Bro, I started fuming as soon as I saw the picture. Imagine seeing your fiancé hug her guy best friend while they're both half naked. 2 days before your wedding, to add. And the cherry on top was that it was like 12 in the ducking morning. It could not be any more obvious than it was. It was undeniable evidence of the betrayal that Summer threw my way. I was confused. I was angry. I was heartbroken, so basically, I was overwhelmed in every sense of the word. All these questions going on in my mind, like how could someone do this? How long has this been going on? Did she even love me? All these questions are making me really confused, and I could not think straight at that point, and I tried really hard to do, breathing exercise, and desperately wanted to know answers, but I didn't even know who sent the text. If I could just figure out who sent me that picture, I could easily understand and answer all the questions, but I didn't know who sent it. It was an anonymous number, and I've never seen that number in my entire life. I tried asking who it was because maybe they would tell me like it was someone I knew who changed their number but forgot to tell me. Stuff like that happens. Well, it happens all the time, so I thought it was something like that, but when I asked the person who they were, they told me not to worry about that information and that I should just focus on the betrayal in my hands of my fiancé. Oh my God, did I focus? I focused all right. I focused so well, I spent the entire night planning how to take revenge on Summer. Now, I know what you all might be thinking, because it's not really natural to immediately start thinking about taking revenge on your fiancé when you catch them cheating. But for me, what she did was way more than that. She betrayed my trust, and there's no way I could forgive her. I also did it because I understood that engaging in a confrontation would probably lead to us to start fighting, and she would give me these explanations that I knew would be fake and false, because there's no way that someone just hugs a best friend like that. But obviously Summer would not think the same, and she would tell me that I'm simply overreacting, based on a video like a 2-second little clip. Knowing her, she'd probably tell me to think rationally instead of my emotions, which is kind of crappy if you ask me, because when I catch her cheating, I want to act on my emotions just as much as I want to act rationally. So, instead, I made this entire plan that would allow me to get like a sense of control over the situation and just let everyone know that I am not someone who could be walked over. I would not let myself be a victim of something as disrespectful as this. In my head, I was already seeking closure and a way to get my self-respect back. Initially, I was going to make my plan really simple, and just to let everyone know that she was between me and leak the pictures and stuff like that, but then I realized that it probably would not be enough for me to be satisfied. I wanted her to experience the same amount of betrayal and anguish that I felt, and if I had to do it through means that is probably a bit too excessive, I'm ready to do it. Anyways, I knew I could not plan this out alone, especially because the plan that I had in mind involved somebody else. I knew just a person who could help me, so the next morning I called Lillian, even though we haven't talked for a while, and I told her the entire thing that happened. She was honestly shocked as well, because no one expected Summer to do something like this. Lillian told me how she was shocked to find such a perfect couple going through something like this, but because she was such a good friend, she decided it was only natural for her to help me make Summer feel the same way she made me feel. My plan was simple. That day of the morning, when I'll be walking down the aisle instead of going over to stand at the altar to wait for Summer to arrive, I'm going to walk hand in hand with Lillian, right beside me. When I told Lillian the plan, it felt so great because it felt like she was a secret weapon that I had on my hand ready to go. Now, Lillian isn't one to shy away from giving her 2 cents, so she did raise a bit of concerns about the potential plan and how it could go wrong. But she also understood the need for closure that I needed, so we got to action. The next morning was spent brainstorming and strategizing to make sure that it would not go wrong because, at the end of the day, I'm also paying for the stuff there and I don't want it to mess up too bad. I just want people to know what Summer did. And I just want everyone to realize that I'm not the bad guy. Anyways, moving on to the day of the wedding, it was absolute chaos. Okay, picture this. It's the big day, it's supposed to be about love, it's supposed to be about commitment. Everyone's super excited. Everyone's eagerly waiting for my entrance, but then I entered the room with another woman by my hand. Lillian, just to be specific. Now, that's what you call a cliffhanger. The music stopped playing in the room. It went silent. Silent, everyone's eyes on me. And I just felt everyone thinking, what the heck is going on? I saw Summer running out to the aisle with her dress flailing behind her like a dramatic movie scene, and her face going from confusion to utter disbelief. Honestly, well, looking at her face and watching her heart basically break into pieces was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be relieving, but it actually was not as easy. Part of me felt bad for the hurt she was obviously feeling. I mean, I could not deny that our actions had rocked her world, but at the same time, it was hard not to feel a sense of validation for the emotions I've been wrestling with myself. But hey, let's face it. Summer's actions hurt me, and sometimes it's hard to keep a cool head when you feel so betrayed. I guess it's all part of the messy, complicated nature of relationships. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh boy, today's story is wild. A lot of people are saying in the original comments that OP went too far and simply embarrassed her with not even enough evidence from that video. Well, it's not over yet. We're going to jump into the first update, but if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, you're gonna want to click that subscribe button for daily videos. So, let's jump into update number 1. Hey guys. So, the last time I posted here, I kinda left all of you in like a cliffhanger, and I thought it's time for an update, so I'm back. First of all, let's talk about the aftermath of my plan. And someone's reaction, even though I said it was like a movie scene, the family's and friends' reactions were way worse. When she was standing there in the middle of the aisle, I could practically see the shockwave going from person to the other. I could hear the gasping, the whispers, everything. All of them were so shocked at what happened, and one person even told me that I've lost it, and that I should be admitted to a mental hospital. I didn't really take that person's word to heart, because she's super close to Summer, so I understood where she was coming from. Fast forward to the fight and the confrontation between Summer and I. It did feel like I was kind of a powder keg that was waiting to explode. Well, if you guys know what I mean. She stormed into my apartment and her eyes were blood red. It was very clear that she's been crying, and although I felt very guilty for making her cry, because, you know, I still love her, I could not just sit there and let her walk all over me, right? Summer started calling me a heartless monster, and she kept telling me that something was wrong with me and that I should have talked to her about something if something is bothering, but that's the thing. I've tried to talk to her so many times and talk to her about it, and every single time she's disregarded my concern. This is what she gets for not listening to me when I try to tell her that something's bothering me, and when I tried to fix the relationship so hard, she was out there partying and getting all touchy-touchy with her guy best friend, Aaron, while they were practically naked. So, no, I don't feel that bad anymore because, yeah, she deserved it. At one point, the entire confrontation and the entire argument got so heated that she threw a lamp at my head. I mean, who does that? I could not believe my eyes. Because I never thought, well, she was the type of person to get violent, but she basically tried to tell me that point anyways, and it's gotten really heated. So I've told her she could either stop being a baby about it and we could sleep in different rooms, or she could leave. This woman scoffed in my face and slammed the door shut when she was leaving, no doubt going back to that stinky guy, Aaron, I suppose. I didn't hear from her all night, and deep down, I could not help but wonder if Summer truly believed her in denial. Okay, I get it. Maybe Summer did not feel that way about him, but it was very clear that Aaron had liked her from the get-go, especially from the way that he was so touchy-touchy around her all the time. So how could she deny everything in a matter of seconds? Like, I even have evidence of them in a very passionate embrace that's caught on camera and sent by a stranger, and she still would not agree to the fact that she cheated on me. as if I was clinging to crumbs at this point, because there's no way we could go back to how we were. I realized how our entire relationship has now transformed into this hole of insecurity and anger and hurt and mistrust and And I really needed to face that harsh reality that maybe she just was not meant to be mine. That doesn't mean I don't get to make her feel like crap, though, because she broke me apart completely. I spent that night drinking my heart out, ignoring calls from everyone, and I basically vanished from the face of the earth, and just for the moment, I was happy. It felt like there was nothing that could harm me anymore, and I was in this safety bubble that would just never pop. I don't know what I'm going to do now because Summer still has not come back home. Even though it's been like 2 days now, she didn't even come to get her stuff if she was living somewhere else. For now, I'm just ignoring everybody and pretending like I don't exist because I don't have that mental energy to deal with people right now. Update number 2. So, I'm back with another update because things never go right in my life, do they? So after the entire fight that I've had with Summer, she did not come and see me at my house or in the house that we shared together for almost a week. I'm not really sure the exact time, but it's like 5 or 6 days. Instead of her, though, the main villain of the story, Aaron, decides to pay me a visit. Honestly, when I opened up that door for him, I expected our conversation to be loud and violent, so I invited them inside because I didn't want to disturb my neighbors. Our conversation started out pretty easy and civil. He tried explaining Summer's side of the story and told me how I was misunderstanding the entire situation, but I just felt like he was downplaying my feelings because he was refusing to acknowledge that I'd seen the video, and it felt like it was more than just a simple hug. Although, I should kind of get grateful for him, because when I told him about the video, he did not instantly get mad at me, but he did try and tell me that it seemed like a much bigger thing than it actually was, and that I was just looking at the surface of it, and that there was nothing happening there, and they're just two friends who were hugging because one of them's getting married. And, well, Aaron was happy for her. When he starts defending Summer, that's when things took a turn for the worse. Well, I guess you could say my emotions that were going through were inexplainable. Because at one point I was trying to understand their point of use and where both of them were coming from. But then again, why was he coming to her defense so hard? Just seeing his face angered me, and it brought up all the feelings of anger and hurt right there to the surface, to the point where I felt like I was standing on a volcano that was ready to erupt. In his eyes, I've taken things too far, but in my eyes, I've done exactly what needed to be done. I was not going back down to my initial plan. I was not going to apologize for something that I did because I was forced into that situation. When I told him all this, the exchange escalated into a full-blown argument. We started throwing taunts at each other. There was a lot of frustration in the room, and accusations were basically flying back and forth at the point as well, and it was very clear that neither of us was going to back down. It took a punch to my face and a punch to his face for us to finally realize that this was going far beyond what we planned when we decided to have a civil conversation with each other. And so we decided to let it be, and I told him that he needs to leave. As if that wasn't enough, Jack, my best friend, who had been with me through the thick of it, left me a message that questioned my actions. His text was filled with disappointment, and I could not believe that he could not understand why I've taken things to this point. Even though I had let him very lengthy text messages that explained the entire situation, up to how I felt about it. It hurt that he could not understand why I've crossed these lines. But the fact that he was no longer willing to support me just made me really frustrated, because he was the one person that I expected would understand me. So, that was really tough on me, and now I'm not sure where I'm going to go ahead from this, because my life feels like it's crashing down, but it was supposed to be the other way around. So, either I can get my life back on track, or I can try and ruin Summer's life even more. Update number 3. So, I'm back with another update relating to my wedding day drama because for some reason it just keeps on taking unexpected turns left and right. One thing that really stuck with me when I talked to Aaron last time was when he asked if I even knew the person who sent the video. Well, because of him, he said that sounds like a really important detail and that I should not just do something this big based on a video sent by someone, well, I don't even know. That made sense, honestly. Like, yeah, I get his point, and I also start to feel really guilty for the chaos I've caused, so equipped with determination and a bag of Cheetos, I decided that I was going on a digital mission to uncover who was the one who sent me that text. So, I channeled my inner Sherlock Holmes and decided that the best way to do this would be to track the IP address of the sender and track their information from it. I'm really good at tracking IP information because I worked as an IT guy for a really long time, and this is just something that I've learned on the side for a couple years as well, so it wasn't that hard. When I was doing it, however, my heart was pounding like a jackhammer. My eyes were glued to the screen because I just needed to know who the person was, and I was so nervous. I felt like I was about to scream whenever the loading bar came up, and oh my god! You guys don't understand the amount of shock that I went into when I found out who that anonymous sender was. The digital team led me to ride out the virtual doorstep. It was Lillian. Yeah. The same Lillian who walked down the aisle with me. The same Lillian who comforted me through the times and told me I was doing the right thing. When I found out, I could not understand why she has done this, what she did to me, but then again, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe she was trying to look out for me and let me know what was happening back there, which I should be grateful for, right? But then, why was the message anonymous if she was helping? I wanted answers, so I decided to confront her, and you know what I found? She made it look way bigger than it actually was, just because she likes me and thinks Summer does not deserve to have a man like me. So, this was her plan to get us to break up. I'm heartbroken finding this news out. I can't believe I fell for this trap and ruined the best thing about my life because of someone like Lillian. I'm going to talk to Summer again, try to see if she can understand my point of view, but I know I broke her. I've broken her poor little heart really badly. Update number 4. So, I'm back with another update, and this is probably going to be my final one. After this, I don't think there's anything that we even need to talk about. I found out about the picture and everything, and I felt so guilty. Because I basically ruined my entire life based on the picture, and not just that, I ruined Summer's life as well. As soon as I got to know what Lillian did, I called Summer and explained the entire situation to her. She lashed out at me, though I understand that because what I did to her was very extreme, and I don't expect her to forgive me so quickly. But I tried my best to let her know how I was feeling, so she'd know I was very genuine in the apology. But Summer, understandably hurt and betrayed, needed time to process it all. She told me that what I did was not easy to forgive, because it had shattered her self-respect and trust in me, and that was something you can't easily fix. I was ready to do whatever it took, though. Aaron and Jake also talked to me about it, although the conversation with Jake was much more calm, and even though he told me off for being so stupid, it never went as far as it did with Aaron. Aaron, well, he was outraged. He barged into my house and started screaming at me, calling me all sorts of names, and even landed a punch on my face. I took it all with no complaints because I knew I deserved it. I asked him to help me out and gain Summer's trust again. I begged him. But he just scoffed in my face and told me I've messed up way too far for him to help me now. While waiting for Summer's decision after the phone call I had with her, I knew I needed to confront this Lillian. Wow. I let her off way too easily, and I cannot let her manipulative actions go unaddressed. I tracked her down like a bloodhound and confronted her, unleashing all the anger and disappointment that I felt. I let her know that her selfish actions have caused immense pain and turmoil in my life and jeopardized the happiness I'd found with Summer. However, it seemed like she didn't care, because she was still trying to convince me that I should just date her instead because she, quote, makes me happier than Summer ever did. I got so mad when I heard that, I didn't even trust myself to not hurt her. So I left. Now, I can only hope that Summer finds it in her heart to forgive me for my impulsive actions. Well, that's all, folks.
Well, this story was definitely a roller coaster ride. We were left on kind of a cliffhanger, though, at the end of the story, not knowing if OP got taken back by Summer. However, if there's any updates on this, you guys will be the first to know about it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, that way you'll get notified if I make an update video. However, I want to discuss the relationship with Aaron and Summer's friendship. Do you guys think that OP was onto something? Pretend that Lillian never sent that message and we never saw the video evidence of Aaron basically cuddling with her. Okay, let's just pretend that never happened. Still, do you guys think that Aaron was too close to her? Let me know your thoughts about that one. Did OP have a case to be mad, or was he just being ridiculous? Post your comments down below. Let's go ahead and discuss this one. It had a lot of drama, it was heated in some of the moment, so I would love to discuss this one.
My biological son and me helped pay for my stepdaughter's wedding, but then she decides to backstab both of us in the most toxic way you can imagine. After we paid over $30,000, she decides, hey, by the way, guys, you're not invited to the wedding. Yeah. So, my son helped me to pay for my stepdaughter's dream wedding. Me too. She then disinvited both of us from the wedding just a week before, as we looked cheap apparently. We're good enough to pay for the wedding, but not good enough to go to it. How nice. You might think I'm joking or exaggerating. I wish I was, then it wouldn't hurt quite so much. Now, is it just me, or is my stepdaughter an absolute cow? I'm so furious about this, you have no idea. But before I continue, please do like and subscribe. Hi. Thank you. Well, my name's Tom, and I just turned 50. Only now has my hair turned gray, and it's all because of my stepdaughter, Cherry. I have a very hardworking son, Steven, who I'm proud of. He's 25, the same age I was when he came into my life. He's a conscientious and looks after his money very wisely, or should I say that he did before all this went down. He's not flashy with his cash, even though he could have afforded to be, I suppose. He's a carpenter just like me, and is recently investing in a decent work van to get a better image to his customers, but he was totally happy in his scruffy old work van, and he would have happily run it to the ground if my stepdaughter had not kept on taking the mickey out of him. It makes me so mad, you know. Perhaps because Steven was an only child for much of his life, it meant that when I remarried and inherited a stepdaughter, he was just so overjoyed to have a sibling that he's been far too good to her and looked after her far too much for her own good. Or even his. She's 2 years younger than him, so she is the baby of the family and our put-together family, but not innocent and not deserving of the kind of attention she's been given, in my opinion at least. My son Steven's fiancée, Kathy, is a very down-to-earth girl like Steven, and a pleasure to spend time with. I hope that they'll one day give me grandchildren. Well, like me, they don't care what they look like, they're kind and always think of others. They would like a simple wedding themselves, but have to postpone it as my stepdaughter asked Steven for money, and he selflessly agreed to fund her lavish dream wedding. Kathy didn't even look put out by it at all, bless her soul. It's not fair, is it? It really isn't. Now you may see why I'm so riled up over this to begin with.
If it was just this, then maybe it wouldn't be too bad. It's my son's choice, of course, and if he wants to be kind and generous and Kathy doesn't mind, then it's not my place to say anything, but it gets worse. Oh, so much worse. My blood's boiling just thinking about the cheek of it all, and this is just not me. I've even been pushed to above my limit. Please tell me, would you be the same? Let me know in the comments. I'm right to be angry. Is this a normal and justified reaction, do you think? My stepdaughter is so far up her own backside, I'm surprised she doesn't waddle like a duck. I do love her, of course, as though she was my own daughter. I think it'd be much easier if I didn't, though. I should not expect any decency from her. Then perhaps I should not be so shocked or disappointed. She's blasé about how much this has affected people and how she's torn the whole family apart. And her fiancé, wow, I don't know so much about him, except that he always looks well-groomed. Cherry obviously loved that about him. He has a group of friends with fancy girlfriends. Cherry has claimed as her crew. I guess she used him to get in with the crew she desired, to emulate the people she looked up to and desired to be like. First of all, let me explain how I see it. My stepdaughter is one of these people that in her head is rich and deserves the best of everything. She looks down on people that are no different from her, and it absolutely just infuriates me. She doesn't work, so she should not expect to live a high life. All she cares about is that people think she's rich and that she's rubbing shoulders with rich people and having photos taken with rich people in luxurious places. It's all fake and false, and this dream wedding has brought out the absolute worst in her. But I never saw this coming. It's such a joke, but not funny in the slightest. Steven paid 50% towards Cherry's wedding, and then I put in another 20% on top, as I felt guilty that he was being so kind and I wanted to be more like him. I wish I hadn't now. I wish I hadn't supported him. If I could turn back time, I would have told him to hang out onto every single penny he had worked so hard for, and I would have held on to my money as well. I would have told him that she doesn't deserve his kindness. I would have been protecting my son, protecting myself, and protecting her from herself. She's lost her whole family over this after all, and I'm pretty sure that I'll never ever forgive her. It's the final straw, the one you could say broke the camel's back, you know? Update number 1. Well, I'll tell you what. My son Steven certainly got his revenge, though. Oh yes, it was a little bit surprising, to be honest with you. I didn't think he had it in him. I didn't teach him to act like this. It just goes to show how far she has pushed him to reach his limit like this. So, now the pictures scene. My stepdaughter and her future husband were at the grand wedding that we all paid for, eating their canopies and drinking their sweet champagne with the projector that my son Steven set up for her. It started rolling. But wait, please let me give you some background to what drove him to this point, and then you can tell me if you think it was justified or not. See, my stepdaughter has been spoiled rotten over the years, and I guess that I'm pretty partly to blame. And also Steven as well, but my wife is the worst for it. Cherry was her only baby. She did not inherit Steven as a stepson until he was an adult himself. He was 18 and Cherry was sweet 16 when I married her mother, but not so sweet. Cherry thinks that she's entitled to be, well, the very best of everything, and the little money that she has is just wasted on daily beauty treatments and the latest fashion trend. See, she's always clothes shopping, carrying those fancy cardboard bags with string handles. Then, when she cannot put food on the table, she just comes running back to her mother for an endless cash handout. She will only ever eat at the very best exclusive restaurants and order the most expensive things on the menu with no intention of ever putting her own hand in her own pocket. She drinks expensive coffee in coffee shops and overpriced cocktails in cocktail bars. She has not worked a single day in her life. She was lazy at school and she was lazy at home when it came to helping out her mother with his housework and chores. Oh, and please don't get me started on how long it would take her to get ready in the morning and in the evenings for a night out.
Most nights hogging the bathroom and clogging up the plug hole, if you know what I mean. Yuck. It makes her so ugly in my eyes thinking about it. For her to be so focused on herself and how she looks to others, how can she call us cheap looking, insinuating that we're poor or beneath her when she without us would, well, not have her fancy-pantsy wedding? Perhaps if we had not spent all of our hard-earned money on her lavish wedding, then we would maybe have had some money left to spend on our wedding outfit so that we could have pretended to be as fancy as she pretends to be. But come to think of it, she didn't even know what we had spent her plan to wear for her special day. She didn't even bother to ask. Not that it matters now, but she just assumed that we would look scruffy when we might have actually spent quite a bit on our wedding guest outfit. I guess we'll never know, will we? But how very dare she? You know, the sad thing is that I would have gone to her wedding and thought she looked beautiful even if she was dressed in a bin bag. And so would my son Steven, so why weren't we welcome with the open arms at her wedding no matter what we would have looked like, or what dress that she had? We had put ourselves out to pay for her dream wedding, and she has had the cheek and audacity to disinvite us from the wedding just a week before? Can you believe it? Would Cherry have put herself out for us, or anyone for that matter? Oh no, of course she wouldn't have. It's also incredibly insulting to my son Steven's fiancée Kathy, as her modest wedding has been put on her back burner because of all this. How dare she? I mean, who even does that? It's not like she was even trying to keep the numbers down, which I could maybe have understood, but the cost was no issue to her, with our money funding 70% of the whole silly saga. What an absolute cow. She is, right? Isn't she? It is not just I thinking that, is it? I'm beginning to doubt myself, but am I the a-hole here is what I want to know. So hit me up with comments, please, and put me out of my misery. And who are these guests of hers that would have looked down at their noses at us? They weren't exactly royalty or celebrities, just other posers and wannabes like Cherry. Materialistically minded people with zero spiritualness. I guess. Are people really that shallow? Part of me thinks that they would not have given two hoots what we look like. It was all in her head after that, and even if they were judging us, who cares? I bet she didn't tell them that we had helped her to pay for the wedding and expected nothing in return except perhaps, I don't know, maybe an invite. Of course not. Perhaps if she had, we wouldn't have made out the poor relations that we are, well, not. Well, the truth certainly came out in the end, didn't it? And the truth hurts, especially when it comes as such a shock and such a happy day. The best day of your life, even. Well, that didn't quite work out as planned. Cherry, well, rocky foundations and all that, or should I say building a house on sand? Do you think that it was the photographs on her special day that she thought we might spoil the look of it? The photographs were taken by the expensive photographer we helped pay for. The photographs that now won't even be developed. Oh dear, I don't mean to be unkind, but I bet this marriage wouldn't even have lasted if they have tied the knot on that day. The amount that was spent on the wedding is most certainly not a reflection of the love between Cherry and her fiancé. True love doesn't need to be showy. Aside from her only being interested in herself, of course, she clearly only wanted him because his family appeared to be upper class, but they weren't even wealthy enough to help them pay for the wedding, as we did so, goes figure. All frills and no game. Is that the right purpose? Well, they were probably just as fake as she was. How sad, fools fooling each other at their own game. Well, guys, hit me up in the comments section. I think I might have gotten my panties in a twist here, if you know what I mean. And no, I'm not a cross-dresser, or am I? Maybe then I could understand the disinviting to Cherry's wedding. If I was to upstage the bride in a nice dress on her big day, stepfather of the bride, now that would have made headlines, wouldn't it? Not in a good way, I suppose. I mean, I think she thinks the glossy magazines will want to do a glossy pullout spread when she's a nobody. I'm telling you, a nobody who's pretending to be rich and classy.
Update number 2. Oh, and I bet you're wondering about her actual father. Well, that is quite the story. And perhaps why she is the way she is, but I'll let you be the judge of that. So her father did not give two hoots about her and never had two pennies to rub together, as they say. Actually, he did have coins as they were thrown into his scruffy hat as he begged outside of the train station, but don't tell Cherry I told you that. She'd be mortified. She says that he never begged a day in his life and that he was a musician.
Ah, okay, if you say so.
She was ashamed of him, and I guess that's why she has to make such a show about being anything but scruffy and poor. I mean, I feel sorry for her. I do. It makes sense that she wants to be seen as more than a beggar's daughter, but no one has ever judged her by her father. She has loving people all around her, and yet she has treated them all like absolute rubbish. Well, karma's coming for you, as they say, and she's certainly getting her comeuppance now, don't you think? Perhaps in the future she'll be a better person from this hard lesson, but I truly doubt it. There's no hope for her in my opinion. They may want to feature the story in their magazine. If they hear about what my son Steven did at her wedding, I mean, now I think she has the fame that she always wanted, except now everyone knows her as the shallow, selfish cow that she really is. And her wedding? Oh yeah, it was ruined. People walked out on her before she even said her vows. And when her true colors were shown, or should I say broadcasted in full-blown technicolor, let me tell you about Steven's mother. She was a good woman. She never drank, never smoked a day in her life. Well, she shouldn't have been taken away from us so young. I would have never married again if she hadn't died, and I said I never would even when she did die. We were a happy little unit. Me, Meg, and Steven, and those memories can never be surpassed. Let me tell you about my second wife, Cherry's mother. Now, I have to be careful in case, God forbid, she ever reads this. But no, I don't think she will, unless this thread goes, well, viral. She's mildly better than Cherry. No, not just kidding. She's not like her when it comes to money. But I think she tries to make up for being a single parent and her dad being rubbish and overcompensates with her generosity, which has never been appreciated by Cherry. Until she married me, of course. And as much as I disapproved of my wife's soft-touch approach with her daughter, I was never brave enough to speak up. Now I wish I had. Now I think I'm going to have to speak with my feet and leave my marriage. I wish I had not let it come to this, but I think that's the only way now. Too much damage has been done, don't you think? A week before the wedding, update 3. Well, so a week before the wedding, Cherry sends us a text out of the blue. Yes, you read that right. She didn't have the decency to talk to us face to face like adults and explain it to us, but how could she? It's unexplainable after all. It still doesn't make sense to me. How did it even make sense to her? And she copied and pasted the same message to both of us. How lazy is that? It speaks volume, doesn't it? Here's our delightful text after 35,000 euros was spent on her. Hey Terry, hey Steven. Just to let you know that I would have loved to have you at the wedding, but as you know, I've gone to a lot of trouble to make sure that it is very luxurious, and I'm afraid that your presence threatens to detract from that. I know that you'll understand what I mean. No hard feelings, man. With love from bride-to-be, Cherry. XOXO. There's no love there, and do you think her fiancé knew or approved of that pitiful text message? Should I blame myself? I mean, if I had not married, then my dear son Steven would not have such an evil stepsister thrust into his life. And before you ask, no. My second wedding did not cost hardly anything. Just some bread and butter for sandwiches at a reception at my late mother's house. We certainly didn't have to borrow any money for it. We did not live beyond our means, and it's funny how, now that I think of it, when I say borrow, you would think that Cherry has had an arrangement with us to pay back the money that Steven and I surrendered to her, but, well, of course not. She had no intention of paying us back a penny. I mean, how could she?
She doesn't make any money, she just spends it and spends it very well. So shameful. We know that now, and she knows that, so who's the mugs? Us, of course. More fool than anybody. Well, fool us once, but not twice, I say. Lesson learned, painful but memorable. I'll never let this happen to me or anyone that I care about ever again. It's totally out of order, isn't it? I've always prided myself on keeping the peace and keeping people as happy as I can. It's nice to be nice, you know. I guess Steven must have inherited that trait from me. It shouldn't have been a bad thing. Now, don't get me wrong. There's definitely honor in doing that right thing. There always will be. I stand by that for sure. The important thing then is, who do you do good things for? You. Therefore, you need to be selective, I think. If you take one piece of advice from my sorry situation you found myself in, that should be it. Think about it. If you do good for a bad person, not only are you hurting yourself, but you're also preventing a good person from having your help. It's not always easy to spot someone that's undeserving of your help. I mean, after all, if they're anything like Cherry, you probably have a reason to feel sorry for them. They know that, and they'll play on that for sure. They play the victim card, and if you're like me, a people pleaser, you'll play the hero and come to their rescue. In your gut, you will know you're being taken advantage of, so hey, listen to your gut. Plus, I wish I had, and I'm going to encourage Steven to do the same in the future. Too little too late though, isn't it? A surefire way of sussing out if someone's deserving of your help is to show in their gratitude or lack therefor. In this case, the fact that she's never offered to pay us back and has disinvited us to her wedding are telltale red flag signs. I think, but they came too late to help us, didn't they? We'll never see our money again, it's gone. Were the signs there that we could have looked out for? Are there red flags you should have looked out for? Yeah, probably. If I knew, perhaps I would have made better choices. I think we should have just been firm and said no, to be honest. Good people don't ask for anything or expect anything. Bad people are always looking for what they can get. Cherry did not need a lavish wedding, did she? She just wanted one. We should have told her, if you want it that bad, then earn the money by working hard and saving up. Then you can pay for it yourself. If you're too lazy to do that, then your wedding will be a reflection of what you can afford. It's that simple. That's being true to yourself. Well, it's a piece of paper at the end of the day. A declaration of love between two people. It should not be about showing off, keeping up with the Jones, or having an Instagram-ready lifestyle. I mean, come on. That's all fake glitz and glamour, and all that glitter is simply not gold. Update number 4. Oh boy, strap your seatbelts in for this one. My son feels heartbroken, of course, and feels betrayed by his stepsister's behavior. I do too, and I feel responsible for allowing it. Now that he's gotten his revenge on her, I also feel partly bad for Cherry, but I don't want to. She got what she deserved, and if I show her I feel bad, she's going to continue to have power over me and take advantage. Not to mention, it'd be disrespectful to my son after, well, he's lost so much and been so brave to stand up to her. What do you think? Is it okay to turn my back on Cherry after she's done this to us? After all, she has turned her back on us by disinviting us to her wedding. Well, guess what? It was not just her guests that left the wedding in disgust. When her true colors were shown on the projector at the wedding, the groom left before they said their vows, and she had not seen him since. The only problem is that she's back living with me and the wife now. The wife is barely speaking to me as she feels that I could have stopped Steven from absolutely wrecking her big lavish wedding day. All that money was spent by us and she didn't even get married. In the end, in fact, it was the worst day of her life. Apparently a very expensive one, don't you think? So now, although Steven's probably happy enough, well, she's not happy. And I'm okay, I suppose. My blood boils over the whole situation. I'm tempted to move out as being around my wife means being around my horrible stepdaughter. It seems that the only way of really getting rid of my stepdaughter, short of killing her off, and God knows I've been tempted to, is just to leave my wife. Then I would never have to deal with this Cherry again and her dramas. Is that too drastic? Is that throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak? Let me know what you would do in the comment section. I mean, I think my wife is close to throwing me out anyways. The tension in the house is unbearable. Stephen and Kathy have offered to have me stay with them, of course, lovely as they are, but I need to get on my own. This isn't a temporary tiff. It's the end if I stick to my guns. I didn't know what Stephen planned to do, but even if I did, I can honestly say I would not have stopped him. I'm not usually like, well, what did they say, an advocate of revenge. An eye for an eye, it normally creates more misery. Sure enough, it did in this situation too, but Cherry deserved to have her rudeness called out, and her guests spoke with their feet, as did her fiancé. Stephen did them all a favor, I think. She's no longer living a lie and fooling them. She's no longer taking advantage of Stephen or me, and will never give her another penny of our hard-earned cash. If my wife can't see that Cherry has brought this all on herself, then I may have to walk away for my own peace of mind. I've quite gotten used to the idea of being single again at my age. Not to date again, but simply to be able to do as I please when I please. No more driving my wife and Cherry around, picking up people that've been drinking. No more watching trash on TV and clearing up after other people. I just want to be responsible for myself. I might buy a van and live like that. Cherry would hate it, but it'd make me happy. I'd finally be free. What do you think I should do? I and my son have decided to move and just focus on our happiness. Update number 5. Final update posted by OP. Alright, so what happened on the wedding day? Yes. Cherry and her fiancé were getting ready for their speeches, apparently. I'm not sure who she was expecting to speak to, as I and Stephen were disinvited and I told you about her real father. He certainly never got an invite in the first place. She wanted family only. Oh, the irony, when we're the closest she has or had to family and we didn't meet the cut. The family she thought she was gaining has turned their back on her, quite rightfully so. Anyways, I don't know what she was expecting to see on that projector screen, but it wasn't what they all saw. Her guest, her fiancé, and her. Picture her there for a moment before her mask was pulled off, before the comfortable fluffy red carpet was pulled out from beneath her perfectly manicured toes. She was the belle of the ball, wasn't she? The center of attention. Just as she'd always wanted to be since she was a little girl, I guess. Her overpriced, one-of-a-kind designer dress made of pure white silk with pearls hand-stitched tirelessly, with her prom queen hair curled and bleached with streaks of honey blonde and Hollywood makeup that made her look absolutely flawless, when she was anything but. Ruby red lipstick and red soles on her 2,000 euro shoes to be worn just once, and a bouquet of fragrant, fresh flowers, carefully curated and designed, and, well, that would not have looked out of place on a princess at a Windsor castle. All of that perfection paid for by us and destroyed by us. Well, by Stephen, my son, in the few minutes that it took to project her flaws onto that large white sheet. Stains that can't be washed off with bleach. Cracks that can't be papered over with foundation. Things that can't be brushed under the carpet. Her true core now cannot be unseen with, well, revealed in all its putrid colors. She was horrified, mortified, and hopefully ashamed as herself as she watched the videos Stephen had painstakingly added together. Well, and she saw the reaction of the people around her. The people she had tried so hard and desperately to impress. Well, her mascara ran down her face, not waterproof after all that, and she, my stepdaughter Sherry, was not as motionless as you might have thought, see? My son Stephen had secretly filmed her demanding money from us again and explaining all the lavish things she must have at her wedding.
He made a mortgage of her with the clips of the spoiled brat from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. OMG. I think she was called Veronica Salt and turned into a blueberry or something like that. There were screenshots of the huge amount of money we transferred to her. $25,000 from Steven and $10,000 from myself. Followed by screenshots of her telling us that she didn't want us to come to our wedding after all, because we would make her look cheap. He also filmed clips of her bad-mouthing her other guest and her fiancé of all people. Things that I was even shocked to hear she had said. The guest had all booed her out and walked out before the ceremony, and there was no first dance, no cake cutting, and certainly no honeymoon, no confetti was even thrown, nothing. Her happy ever just fizzled out like a damp firework, and the video revelations were the only fireworks set off on that day. Well, we should have got some money back for those unlit fireworks and the DJ who we sent home as soon as he arrived. But it doesn't work like that, does it? A lot of people made a lot of money out of us for doing very little. A lot of very fancy and no doubt tasty food was made, but never served or even eaten. The few people who left after the mass exodus had lost their appetite for some reason, and I can't for the life of me figure out why.
Okay guys, I'll be completely honest with you. We've seen a lot of Bridezilla stories, we've seen a lot of toxic characters, mother-in-laws, you name it. We've seen some pretty bad people. But this person might take the cake, and who I'm talking about is clearly the stepdaughter, right? I mean, she enabled every red flag I could ever even think to enable. The fact that OP and the son paid over $30,000 to help her, and not to mention OP's son postponed his own wedding with his wife to help pay for his stepsister's wedding, which isn't even his biological sister. Oh boy, this story was dark, twisted, and goes so deep. Let me know your thoughts on this story, guys. I would love to hear from you. There were a lot of turning parts of this one, so it can be hard to say exactly what you would have done, but drop your thoughts down below. Let's discuss this one, guys. If any more updates come out for it, you will be the first to know, so make sure you subscribe, and I will make a video about it right away. Once again, thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed today's content. I know I enjoyed reading this one. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.